The thing is that we have to go to a higher order than this. We can't use reason on somebody that's not valuing reason in the decision-making process. You would have, if you really want to have reason.
I do value reason. It's just we're talking about something that is not
lighter and faster and stronger. No.
Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show.
But they don't think they're fringe. They think they're the normal ones. I think everyone thinks they're the normal ones. I'm convinced.
I agree. And we just went officially live on my channel as far as everybody can see. So let everybody know.
Welcome.
Let us know if you can hear us because we're doing a collab. So I'm streaming to my channel. Brittany's streaming to her channel. And we're going to have a discussion on the differences, kind of how men and women think, especially in the modern age of dating. And it's yeah. And by the way, one of my moderators actually lives with me, and so she's familiar with the particular topic. She might chime in a little bit if that's okay.
Okay, great.
You might remember Kano. Remember her?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm bad with names, but I think so.
Okay. Well, absolutely. So anyways, I'm gonna be checking my live chat here. Let me know if my audio is good because I was fixing it earlier. It looks like
I think he's good at my end, right, guys?
Okay, that sounds good. Outstanding. So where do you really want to begin? I was watching your stream earlier. You were talking about the Vosh situation. If you want to touch on that real quick.
Well, I guess I was surprised you were covering Vosh or even knew anything about.
I'm not covering.
Do you know anything about it?
I do because Vosh has been on the show before. I've had Vosh. I've had Destiny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had Vosh on the show and the after show. And I actually talked to Vosh. I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and I asked him back down the show. And he's like, "Sure, but what we're going to talk about, kind of stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, there's so much more now, isn't there?" Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. Look, I think Vosh, he's always been cordial to me. I think he's just, neurodivergent, as I think the speak would be. I think he's on the spectrum, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe social cues elude him a little bit, but he's really educated. I mean, Vosh is not a stupid guy, but I don't think he knows how to deal with certain social type of things. And what happened on his channel, while it wasn't like the be-all, end-all that would end your YouTube career, especially like demonetization or even worse, taking off your channel.
Sure.
It was awkward.
You mean the leaking of the folder?
Yeah, that's a little awkward. Especially streamers. First of all, like I can tell you right now, this computer is so clean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's prudish. It is like, 16th century.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The hardest thing I have on here is probably, Selma Hayek in a bikini. Okay.
Let's go. Yeah. She's beautiful.
Right. And also because, if something happens to me, I want my hard drives to go to somebody so they can put out, the truth about a lot of things that have been going on. So, I think when you stream, you have to be cognizant of what you're showing. And especially, I've shown things that I thought was perfectly innocuous. I mean, just nothing. And yet somebody will still twist it,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like, part of me is not so concerned with the leaking of the folder as much as other people might be. I'm mostly concerned with repeated behavior or things of that nature. And like, regardless of autism or not, I'm actually going for an assessment. I'm trying to get my assessment done because I'm curious. It is one of those things where like neurodivergent or not, you're still dealing with like your personal values or how you treat people or how you read situations in the long term. I think like after today's going over the logs with Vosh, he does have repeated patterns, and he does seem a little bit like unable to have like a real conversation about himself or his actions. So I don't know if he's like the worst of the worst, but I also know I don't feel like I could trust him with much. And so like probably to work with, he seems fine enough, though I'm not sure since he's burned a lot of bridges. But who knows, man? In this space, I think it's pretty clear that everyone has different values. And so therefore they will react differently and they will hold you to different standards. And I think it's important to hold yourself to your own. And I don't know what Vosh's is. And so that's what's curious to me is like, I don't even know what his standard is. Like, at least when you watch like, Sargon of Akkad, I know his values. I know where he stands. I know what his thought is on social issues. Like Vosh performs a stance, but I'm not sure that he himself lives a stance, if that makes sense. Some of the debate bros, they just like to debate ideas. They don't actually like care about what's happening in their personal lives. I'm not sure if Vosh is similar. So I don't know. I'd be happy to talk to him and ask him why he's such a little pest, but otherwise,
Well, Vosh and Destiny are the two, I think, quintessential debate me bro kind of guys. Destiny, nothing, and this is not anything against Destiny personally. I'm not a big fan of his debate style because his debate style is win at any cost. Yeah, and as I moderate debates and I have discussions and I participate in debates, my goal is not to win the debate by using sophistry. My goal is not to manipulate the audience so they take my side. My side is to present the facts, the evidence, my arguments, and convince them by reasoned argumentation and logic. And that's not what I see from Destiny. I think he's even said he'll do what he has to do to win a debate, even if he doesn't believe something. I don't remember where I heard that from him, and I could be wrong. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he seems to be at least that kind of debater.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Vosh is, on the other hand, he has some philosophy training, and so he knows how to use philosophy to kind of weaponize it to manipulate people a little bit. To his side. And so I'm not faulting him for that because I think that Vosh really does believe his positions, but they're not my style of discussions. At least with me, because you also have the advantage of knowing me in real life, my character, how I am. Yeah. And so you can definitely trust me. And likewise. And I don't think you can have that with either one of them because do you not think that, and I hate to say this, but do you not think that Vosh or Destiny would throw pretty much anybody under the bus if they needed to save themselves?
I mean,
come on. Yeah, let's be real.
I mean, Do you know that Destiny burned the bridge with me? Do you know that he like?
No, I haven't. No, it's been a while since I caught up with you.
This is really awkward now. This is super awkward now.
I know you stream with Destiny.
That's so funny.
But I don't have much to do with the guy.
Yeah, we had a falling out, which is fine. Like it's his choice. But
talk to me. Let's have coffee, girl. Talk to me.
No, sir. We're not gonna spill the tea on. No. It was look. We had a difference of opinion. I am very blunt, even with my friends, whether I love you or not. I'm pretty blunt about
That's a fact.
My stances. And he didn't appreciate the way that I painted his character. And he decided, instead of engaging with me, to block me and burn the bridge and not have the discussion with me, which is totally fine. But I still don't know what was so offensive. I feel like I said a fact, but like if he feels it's not a fact, then we can talk about it. But like,
topic change.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Look, I say a lot of things on stream. Okay, I say a lot of things on stream. And it's fine that people don't want to have the conversation with me to clear the air or to double check or to inquire. I think he was probably really vulnerable at the time and feeling pretty like on edge. But yeah, I love my friends, whether they're toxic or not. And I would say that he was one of my favorite toxic friends at the time. Mm-hmm. But also, like, if he doesn't want to view himself that way, I think that's valid as well. But I just,
wait, Destiny doesn't view himself as toxic? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think he was offended that I viewed him as like, for his chronic cheating and lying, kind of like the way he, which is like, look, I'm not, at least he's open with it, right? But yeah, of course, like I would recommend women don't date him, right? Or people in general, because he's bisexual. Like I would recommend not dating a serial cheater who says he's going to cheat on you.
Yeah,
well, so like, it's, again, if that's offensive, I totally understand. I just think that, it is what it is. So like, we don't talk, we've never cleared the air about it, but that's, it is what it is. I think this space is confusing compared to your space. See, I'm used to your space. I'm used to MythCon. I'm used to like having conversations in a debate space where you are debating where you're coming from and ideas, but you're never like, you never go personal. And if the personal is used as an example, that's fine. This debate space I'm in now, I'm just a visitor because I don't really debate people. It's kind of what I'm known for. I don't debate people. So when they have me on panels, it's really awkward because I'm like, I'm not going to fight you over this. This is like, I'm not going to win at any cost. It's different. So the coming in from MythCon, coming in from Non-Sequitur, coming in from a debate space with Matt Dillahunty in that debate space, this is a very different debate space. It's very
wait. Have you had a debate with Matt Dillahunty?
No. But I used to I watched Matt. I've watched Matt debate. I actually recently saw Matt walk out of a debate with Andrew Wilson.
I had Andrew Wilson on the other day. Yeah, Andrew Wilson.
Andrew, I won't engage with. He's tried to DM me. I won't engage. Yeah, I won't engage with Andrew. But like, I understand why Matt walked out on that debate. Like, I just can't engage with people like Andrew. It feels like it's not honest. It feels very like, I don't know what we're talking about here. Why are you making everything salacious? Why are you making everything so over the top?
I absolutely agree. And let me tell you the story on that real quick and why I'm doing that. Just let your audience know. I need about 40 more subs, people, to get back to 30,000. This channel had 33 before. I'm nowhere near the level of Brittany. She far surpassed me ages on, even though we kind of started about the same time. But if you guys want to come over here and sub, I need 40 more subs. I appreciate that.
Go check out Steve's channel, guys. See if the content's for you. He hosts a lot of really good panels. You guys can check those out.
All right. So I had Andrew on the other day. He debated a trans friend of mine, Jessica Gill, who I absolutely adore. She's a professional cyclist, bike cyclist, so she does women's in sports, and she accepts that she, was born a biological male. She's transitioned as a female, and she's one of the nicest people I think I've ever met. And we just had an instant friendship, from day one as soon as I first talked to her. And so she's been on a few times. She talked to Andrew, and they had a really good discussion. And from my personal experience, I keep saying, because everybody's been getting after me for having Andrew Wilson on, because I see how he is on the whatever podcast. I see how he is. He doesn't think he's a misogynist, but he sure comes across as one. But whatever, it's his personality, it's just shtick. I get it. But yeah, I gotta tell you, he was super cool with me. He did not go personal. He knows I like philosophy. He didn't go personal at all. He was cordial. He was communicative. So it wasn't like any hassle setting up the event or anything like that. And that's what I look for. I do think he is, sophistic in some of his arguments, but at least he's willing to have those arguments. He does a show with a guy named Made by Jim Bob, who I've been doing reviews on, and that guy is completely involved. He's like super sophistic.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that you mentioned that, because I saw that with Matt Dillahunty, who's people will remember has been on this show before and is not a big fan of mine. The reason being is for probably the same reason you and Destiny might have a little issue. I corrected Matt on many things, and he doesn't like that. It's an ego thing with him. Although he did change his position on something based upon my argumentation. He, whenever it comes up, he mentions my name, or at least kind of alludes to me, but will never admit that it was my argument that changes.
I mean, ego plays a huge role in the debate space. It has to. It really does. I actually think that's probably why it contradicts what I do now on my channel, which is about like humility, and it's kind of the opposite. I mean, look, I have a big ego. I'm very like arrogant and all that stuff.
You're not.
But ultimately,
you're not. You're stop
ultimately,
it.
well,
Stop
but
it.
ultimately,
Really
it's the Middle
not.
Eastern to me. But like, ultimately, I do think that I'm here to be a student, and I don't want to be a teacher. And I think that a lot of the people in the debate space want to see themselves as the leaders, and that's fine, like thought leaders. And I think that's fine, but I'm just like not as interested. Actually, here's a question for you. In the debate space, one of the controversies they're trying to figure out now is like, why don't more women want to participate or be a part of it? And I think it's because when women are students, we really love knowledge for knowledge's sake, and we want to be, I think, like community members and caretakers with that knowledge. And I think men want to be like leaders and egoists. And so like, I, generally speaking, obviously, what is gender? But like, okay, so like when we're having this conversation, I think like that's interesting, because I don't feel a need to like win. I have a need to I just want to be right, but I want to be right based off of an understanding of like a subjective understanding of what is even knowledge in the first place.
Yeah.
So what do you think about women in the debate space? Like, do you ever, like, do you know what your demographics are? Do women even watch?
Yes, I do. One of my channels at one time, it was about pretty much 53 to 50%, 56% women, believe it or not. Now on my primary channel, it's about 93% men. But on this particular channel, it's a lot more different. I have a lot more demographic on this particular channel than my personal channel, where I do the reviews and things of that nature. As far as women in the debate space, what I find is a couple things that happen. Women who come into the debate space, especially on these type of very diverse of topics, there always seems to be the men in the discussion talking down to them a little bit. I see. I don't think they get the proper respect and leeway to really suss out their thoughts. For example, you had just said before that you think you're an egotist and all this other stuff. I know you personally. You're not. You were one of the sweetest people. You know your shit. You know you're amazing. And by the way, happiness suits you. Seriously.
Oh,
I know you're married now, and it suits you. It really does. But I watched. Remember Jay Dreyer?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I watched Jay Dreyer the other day. He was on with Alice Maphouse on this channel years ago, and he was talking to somebody. Her name was Atheist Chick, and I don't remember her. I remember what she looked like. So I was like, yeah, I've seen her before, but I never talked to her or anything like that. And people know I do a lot in the atheist community, and she was actually making philosophical sense. I was like, damn, here's an atheist who actually knows what they're talking about. And Jay was just trying to demean her, talk over her, say she didn't know what she was talking about, that it was sophistry. She was being confusing. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're saying that like you can't understand her because she's not making sense? And I'm like, she makes sense to me, and I know about these topics a little bit. And that's what I see happen. I think that happens a lot more to the women for some reason, especially like the Whatever podcast. They're not bringing in the intellectually giants of the female demographic. They're bringing in these women who are more physically attractive than intelligent. Yeah. And that's by design, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. It is. It really is by design. No, I actually, when people are like, oh, would you go on the Whatever podcast? I was like, for what? Like, they don't want to hear my opinion. They don't actually want to hear problems of anything.
You're not their target to talk to.
The shtick is literally like very specific. Like the shtick is, it's like a game. It's like they want to play a social game. Again, if you're here to discuss ideas, I would be honored. If you're here to just make women look stupid so men can look smart for a moment, like, girl, you make your money. Apparently, those women do make a lot of money supporting their OF, which is great.
Sure, and
but
I
don't have the patience to sit there and be like, like I'm not like that. I don't think it's kind. I don't think it's like good or wholesome. But I think it's like I think it's a mutual destructive money making situation. Like
What,
even though
OnlyFans?
huh?
OnlyFans?
No, the whatever podcast.
Oh, the whatever podcast, yeah.
Like being on those things, because like look, ultimately, if I went on that podcast, like look, I make a majority of my money doing YouTube. That is like what I primarily is my full-time job. But I also have part-time jobs, and one of them is like OF. And I love OF. I love doing adult stuff. I am no way, shape, or form an anti-nudist. Like I'm pro sex work and all that stuff. But when I go on stuff like that, or if I'm confronted by that community, usually the only thing they see me as is that thing. And so they use it as a way to dismiss any of your ideas. And I'm just so part of like a pro-sex bubble that I can't even imagine going back to a world. Like, what am I talking to conservatives? Like, I'm so confused. Like I already popped the conservative bubble to move away from like religion. And now it feels like modern men are turning into these weird so-called like conservatives, but yet they all like are not conservative. It's not like they're virgins. It's not like they're going to church. It's not like you know what I'm saying? So like, why would I put myself in that situation to be on that podcast
And
to talk about nothing?
They're going to probably be a little hypocritical too. Men are a little more, they could be just as promiscuous as women.
They are.
But exactly right. I mean, look, I'm not their demographic either. I'm a middle-aged, middle 50-year-old man who happens to like philosophy, and then at one time had a somewhat moderately successful YouTube channel. But that's not their demographic. I mean, I'm not that meta, what do they call it, Chad, that they're looking for. And so I would have absolutely nothing to add to it. But when I'm listening to them talk these, what's funny about the whatever podcast, at least they ask good questions. I do like their questions. It's a guilty pleasure. They do ask good questions, but they know the responses they're going to get from the women. They've already planned this out in their head. And that's exceptional of how to do a podcast, but they're not there to really get to the crux or the core of the discussions. What they're there to do is literally make the woman look silly. That's
of course.
It's a shtick, and I get that though. At least, but do you agree though? To kind of let people know that. I mean, do you think they really want to put out any kind of real content on the topics? That's not their goal. I mean,
well, maybe not the whatever podcast. Well, it depends. Maybe not the whatever podcast. But I will say, like the manosphere in general, the red pillars, I think they do hold these like philosophies, and they make lots of millions of dollars promoting these philosophies, which is like fine. You do you, like in the world, who cares? But it is one of those things where like I think the women and the men have got to know that it's a symbiotic relationship. Like these podcasts would be nothing without the women, and the women would not be able to promote their OnlyFans as much unless they were doing these collaborations. So like you can do that if you would like. I just think again, like, you know how they kind of paint this picture, like the average woman is all like this. Like obviously the women on this podcast are not the average woman.
Correct.
And by the way, I don't even know what that average woman is, but like it's certainly not these girls.
No, they find women that are either super attractive or something unique about them that is outside the norm. Yeah,
or even the fact that they're on OF. You think a majority of women are on OF?
No, fraction.
Obviously not, right? Like, and so again, I think it's the narrative spin. Obviously, if you watch it thinking they're absolutely right, I think that's one thing. But like, obviously, I just see it as like entertainment for money's sake. But I mean, everybody has a different relationship with what they consume, right? Why does anyone consume anything? They're getting something out of it as an audience member, right?
It's symbiotic. No, perfect. I mean, I love the fact that you put that out there, that it is a symbiotic relationship. And I have nothing against that. I think what they're doing is amazing. I think it's entertaining. I think as long as you watch it with the mindset of what you're getting for their product, both sides are getting something out of it. And so, it's not, I don't think in any way manipulative. I don't think it is exploitive. But that's, something you have to be cognitively aware of, is that anytime you are interacting with people, you don't know if they're going to use you for exploitation. And that's something on the YouTube sphere that I think we both kind of have learned the hard way a little bit, because we both have had issues.
I mean, gosh, you learn it everywhere. I think every industry is going to have it. I think the dream was that YouTube would be different. That somehow YouTube would be more real or something like that. But YouTube is just a job industry like any other industry. And exploitation happens in every industry.
Yeah, but I started YouTube because I just wanted to talk about the topics. And that's what I went back to. I'm not trying to anywhere be where I was, a couple of years ago, as far as like, having 3,000 people watching live kind of stuff. That's never going to happen again. I recognize that. But I just want to talk about what I want to talk about, and people want to listen to that.
Sure.
They do, and that's therapeutic to me. That's my outlet. It's not money maker. It's my outlet, and I think that's really lost on a lot of YouTubers because, like you mentioned, before we talked about Destiny's going to put out whatever, just to get views, I think, and I can't be that kind of streamer. I just can't.
Well, it's interesting. I will say, like, I made the decision 4 years ago to make this my full-time career, to be very serious about it, and so like. It's not a hobby for me anymore, but before it was like this great place. It was a cool thing I did part-time. It was like an awesome place to meet people. And then when I decided to make it my job 4 years ago, it, first of all, made a lot more money. And second of all, I did focus on like, what clips do people want to see? What do people want to see? But I also decided I didn't want to be, there's so many ways to be a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. I'm just very cognizant of what I don't want to be. And I think I'm trying to focus on what I do want to be. And I think I've done a really good job of curating an amazingly introspective audience who's like very thoughtful and interested in like, powerful, passionate debates without this idea of like moralizing or ruining people's like character because they think differently. I think we're doing pretty good at that. But then again, I'm happy to block people that I think might be bad for the community. I do that pretty frequently now. I'm like, oh, you seem like a Debbie Downer.
You have no choice.
But I will say, like, I've met a lot of really great people in this space. Like, I'm really happy with the connections that I continue to make. But I've been a much more coworker with everybody, I think. Just because, like, I have a lot of good friends. And adding more people into the mix can be a little messy sometimes.
Well, I can safely say this, and I'm telling you with all my heart and soul, you are you. You are exactly what you portray yourself to be. To your audience, to my audience, no Thank BS. I can testify to that. I mean, literally, I can testify to that. You are, Thank you. You believe what you believe. I do. If anybody ever calls you fake, have them call me up. Okay.
You know what it is I realize in this space, I think people will say like, there's no way Brittany's telling the truth. And then I had to realize like, they just haven't met this kind of person. Like, so they can't think it's true, but I don't blame them. The space, they're not telling the truth. So I get it.
Welcome to my world. I mean, I still have people to this day that doubt me on things that it was proven that I was telling the truth.
Yeah. That's normal. That's so human though, huh?
But those are the people you don't want to have around. Those are the people that are not edifying. Those are people that are not helping you. Those are people that just want to think badly of you for their own personal agendas.
Or even in the best case scenario, they just don't have the tools to see you differently. Gosh, like how many of us are like, sometimes religious people will come into my community and they're like, oh my God, you're like so hateful towards religious. I was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I need to be able to make my jokes, but also I need you to know, like, I love my parents and they're very religious, but also this is not the space for you. This is not a safe space for the religious.
Or anybody.
Like I love you.
Right.
But like, no. So I think like to give people the benefit of the doubt, like there are the bad, like the quote unquote bad people, whatever that means. But like, there are also just like, people who just like the good people don't always get along. I truly believe that.
Yeah, no, I've lived that, people have said, oh, Steve, now you're doing a series on atheism and therefore you're anti-theist or you're condemning Christianity. I'm like, look, just because I don't believe in Christianity doesn't mean that I'm going to crap on my Christian friends who I respect immensely. They come on and they have discussions. This is the audience that I foster, people that want to have dialogues. I have people that have left other communities because they keep shutting down, conversations that they find to be either triggering or offensive or they don't want to have, which is their prerogative not to be a part of. But then they come over to my community and they go, holy crap, we have freedom to talk about things and we're not going to be judged for it. Now, there are exceptions. Obviously, I'm going to mock flat earthers. I'm going to mock them incessantly. I'm going to make them humiliated. I'm going to get my friend Red's Rhetoric and we're going to have fun making fun of them. It's just the way it is. Sorry, guys.
Are you sure the earth's not flat though?
I've been questioning it, but no, it's not. I'm pretty certain of that. But yeah, you do have people that, if you even have the slightest amount of criticism toward their belief, that they do take it personally. And that's my channel, your channel, not the place for that.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't think we'd be able to like host discussions or debates and stuff like that if we didn't see like the diversity in people. Like, obviously, people have got to be diverse. We have a whole planet full of diversity of different cultures and backgrounds and rights and wrongs. And like, that is why we debate or discuss, just to see if there's a better way to do things. But I think that people want to like throw the baby out with the bathwater, which I get accused of sometimes as well. I do have bias and prejudice like everybody does. We all have things, But yeah, I would say that ultimately, hopefully on my channel, people are given opportunities to like humanize everybody And then to recognize like it's okay to have boundaries with those people. Like truly, after all these years of dealing with very hard people, I've realized like they're just like on a journey, and that is their journey. And whether it's mental health or values or their own perception that makes them do things that are bad, like I don't have to carry the weight of that like negativity with me. I genuinely like, I hate nobody at this point in my life. I'm just chilling. But I recognize like that doesn't mean I can't have boundaries, or that I can't tell people like, I just don't know how to contend with you. Like, I don't know how to trust
I have
you.
boundaries. There are people that I hate, like literally actually hate. And I'm okay with that. Some people say, well, you know, hate is just a wasted emotion, or hate, you know, is harming you worse than, you know, let me deal with my own emotions. You know,
Hey, I trust you to carry your journey, bro. You want to hate? Exactly. I trust you to do that.
Thank you. Brittany gives me permission to hate people.
Brittany says your journey's your journey, bro.
In my bubble.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I just heard. Is that what am I hearing?
I didn't hear anything on my end.
Oh, I'm hearing like, I don't know if they're super chats or subscriber, or I don't know. I get weird noises. I'm paying attention to like 5 different things, so I'm not trying to ignore anybody. Let me ask you, because you know when we were talking about this, we were talking about how men and women think differently. And I want to bring it back to that real quick, because I sent you some photos. My volume should be low. My volume should be just fine. I haven't changed anything. I'll just speak closer to the mic. So let me run back a few years. We had went out, and not on a date. Let me make it very clear. This was not a date. We were friends, and I loved her company, and we had great philosophical talks. And look, I'm going to show my audience some pictures of us, and you can show your end. Back when I had my goatee, you know.
So cute.
Yeah, my long hair. This is your audience, like, whoa, that was Steve. Yeah. I miss my long hair a little bit, but it's okay. And then we got this photo here from my audience, where you had like more reddish hair. And then one of my favorite pictures, you just sitting there with that flatbread pizza, overlooking the winery, right?
What a great vibe, bro.
This was one of the more perfect days I've ever had. And again, wasn't even remotely constitutive of a date. It was two friends hanging out. But let me go back to the original thing we were going to talk about, how men and women think. If you would have said something along the lines later on, oh my God, I went out, you know, and headed out. Well, I don't say when I headed out, you know, with Steve to a winery, and he was a massive creep. You can see how detrimental that would be, and I would, as a man, would be thinking, what did I do wrong? What the hell did I do? Right? Because it was a great time, and
great time.
Yeah, there was no need to even think it was more than that. But I would be thinking to myself, when I put myself out there for somebody who I do want to date, or somebody who I'm just hanging out with, either way, I think that nowadays women are much more, I'm always going to be looking for the worst possible thing to try to say this guy is somebody I don't want to go out again, or you know, he's creeping on me or whatever. And that has really been something that I've been very cognizant of, even in my personal life lately, for the last 2 years. And so, you know, you want to talk about how men and women think differently. Welcome to how men think. We think as, oh my God, all this woman has to do is say, hey, you know, Steve was a real asshole to me. You know, Steve was, you know, touchy-feely or violating my boundaries. And there's nothing a man could do to ever make everybody believe otherwise. Ever.
Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting. So the study that I ended up thinking about in order to talk about this conversation was like an ideological change between men and women moving in different directions, men more conservative and women more progressive, just generally speaking. And when I think about that, I'm thinking about, well, of course, that's going to cause a bunch of issues in dating. Like, of course, that's going to cause a bunch of issues in expectation of what a gentleman is. Of course, it's going to cause issues in expectation of what a lady is, or whatever the expectation of behavior is. And so ultimately, I do think that in certain areas and certain bubbles of the world and certain cultural, whatever, you're going to have one group that's more believed than others, whether it's men who are believed more or women that are believed more. I just think that whatever ecosystem you're in, that's going to reflect what you feel like is happening everywhere, but it's just happening there. And then ultimately, because we're deviating in values, our expectations will be different. So somebody will be considered a creep versus somebody else won't be considered a creep. It's going to be cultural. It won't even be like objective. And that's fine. I think the world is built off beliefs. I'm convinced at this point that we don't even have access to objectivity, like objective T truth. I think we just have perception, like perspective truth, which is ultimately through the lens of our trauma, the lens of our genetics, the lens of our knowing, the lens of our study. Like in relation to Vosh, one of the things that I covered was like H3H3 was insinuating or even stating that he was a PDF file. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think so. I know what a PDF folder is, but I think you're talking about like something relating to sexual. Okay.
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
Okay, the bad one.
The word that gets us demonetized instantly.
We're trying. Yeah, the word that gets us demonetized. Okay,
Yes.
and I am a stickler for like a little bit of accuracy, so I was like, okay, you can't mean technically like the diagnosable illness.
Right, but throwing that word around is it's detrimental. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I think he means possible child.
I think
Something
predilection, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And so like I was being very particular and people just like could not handle it. And so obviously what they're trying to say is like, I'm so worried about protecting children that I'm going to be so fearful of anyone who even wants to distinguish, even for medical or legal reasons, the differences between these things.
Yes.
And much like progressives who are like, if you like, do you remember this time on the internet when some progressive feminists, because every feminist is different, there's different kinds of feminists in the world. Some of them were like, if you like women who shave, you're into little girls. If you like women who are petite, you're into kids.
That's absolute insanity.
Okay, right? Okay, but, okay. So if we know that exists and the nuance between communities exists because of the differences of perception / expectation of behavior, then of course we're going to have lots of bad dates. And also, it's not necessarily wrong or right, but it is what it is. I went on during COVID, I went on like all online Zoom dates. I was in Arizona in the mountains. I was in a conservative town of like 5,000 people, whatever it was. I was not going to date there.
Mm-hmm. I remember those days.
I was not going to date there. So I went on a bunch of online dates, which is eventually kind of how I met my husband, sort of. We met on the Discord. Mm-hmm. So, and I was on the internet. I was going on these Zoom dates and I never went to a second date. That was my rule. The point of the first date was to not get to a second date.
I think you're I think you're missing the whole point of dating, but that's
no.
Okay. I'm going to do an internal critique here because I think you're missing something. But
yeah. It was.
But go ahead.
My brother did this form of dating, and it's just like a courting, more serious form of dating, which is to say, like, hey, I really don't want to waste your time. Let's just talk about values first date, and if we deviate, let's not do it. Because for me, compatibility has to be with values. In all my 20s, I dated toxically. Okay. I was a toxic little bitch. I dated toxic little people and I had horrible relationships. And I realized as I was going on these dates that instead of thinking like this was a horrible date, I just kept thinking like, okay, cool. We don't match in values, but thanks for the date. Mm-hmm. But I think if I was really like desperate, I think if I was really like needy about needing it to go correctly, I'd be like, oh, I had another bad date, but I didn't have a bad date. I just had a date that didn't go to a second date.
Yeah,
that's not a bad date.
No, it's not. That's not at all a bad date. It's just
right, but it's about perspective, and I just don't think people have the perspective. And also, to be fair, if we're deviating in values, I think men and women are probably going to have more bad dates because, again, if a man makes a certain kind of move and the woman didn't expect it, it's going to come off creepy. Like if it's just going to come off weird. So I think that's actually what's happening is more or less more diversity is allowing diversity of like culture. And then we're talking and it's not meshing and then it gets awkward and no one knows what to do. And so it becomes very weird about what is creepy, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what, okay. I mean, I went to a bar about a year or something ago and this really, really attractive Latina came in with some people and she was stunning and she sat next to me and I'm thinking to myself, I don't even want to appear to be a creep, right? I'm just drinking my thing and just conversation. By the end, about an hour later, she's like chatting me up, and 2 hours later, she's sitting on my lap kissing me. Right? It's like, and I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, what the hell happened? Because this woman's it was just stunning. But it's just it was what it was, right? But I'm thinking to myself. Initially, I'm like, I don't even want to like make eye contact with her because I don't want her to think that I'm creeping on her, kind of stuff,
Oh,
she
funny,
was much younger, probably late 20s, even mid 20s, much younger. And for me, I prefer 35 to 45 in that ballpark. But I'm sorry, but a very attractive 25-year-old Latina, what are you gonna do? I mean, don't judge me.
Sure.
But it is really difficult because you don't want to take that first step because something like unwanted unwanted what do they call it? Unwanted advances. You really don't know they're unwanted until you make your effort. But of course, you have to be able to read cues. You have to be able to go, hey, look, this person is nowhere somebody who should be asking out. And that's sometimes, it's difficult. But other times, I've actually had women that were interested. I didn't realize it. And people have actually said, well, why is it that men will reject a woman coming onto them when men tend to, be the one that's the aggressor? And I got to tell you, it's because one, you don't know if they're serious, and you don't want to take that chance. And two, you also figure if they're coming on this quickly, then they've done it many times before. And so you have to choose, is this somebody, like you said, might be fun for certain things, but obviously probably not going to be a long-term type relationship.
Sure. Sure.
So those are things how men think. That's how things that go through my mind when I have somebody, hitting on me, which by the way, has been some time. But I it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's like I feel like this person is either one, they're running game or something. They have an alternative agenda, or are they screwing with you? Because like Latina, I had to think to myself, is she messing with me or something?
How much of this would you say is trauma? Because this sounds like trauma to me. Like we've been traumatized by.
We all have trauma.
Huh?
We all have trauma.
No, for sure. But like, I wonder how much of it is like expecting someone to turn on you or to think ill of you or to like have a bad moment with you. Because like, look, I've gotten first of all, consent is a construct. Right. So like, it's not universal. The way we ask for consent, the way it works is cultural. It changes. Everyone does it different. Person to person, it's different. So like, I guess like I understand that fear. I think women have the same fear, only in the reverse, which is like men are afraid of being accused. Women are afraid of being raped. Like, so, we all sit there with a lot of anxiety in our bodies, which is why we have like things in place. I went on this date in Arizona physically. I actually went to a physical restaurant with somebody once. And we went to this restaurant and I texted the location of my sister and I texted, what restaurant I was at with, because I was meeting this guy from the internet. She didn't hear from me for like 45 minutes because the date was going really well. So she called the restaurant and she's like, is my sister at that restaurant? She's got curly hair. She's very loud and has a big nose. And like, is she at this restaurant? And then the waitress came up to me and she goes, I'm so sorry, your sister's on the phone. And the guy, in his defense, I get it, but he was like pretty offended, but he took it pretty well. He had a good attitude about it.
I wouldn't be offended. I'd be like, hey, this person's, looking after somebody. I get it.
Well,
I understand. But yeah. Well, I mean,
I have a very protective family,
of course you know. But the first time we headed out for coffee, you made me sign a waiver in blood, swear allegiance to Beelzebub. It was bizarre, man.
True. True. It's like, look, we all have all these anxieties, and so that is just like dating. I have a question for you. Here's this, because are you in like a romantic relationship right now or anything?
Put me on.
You don't have to answer that publicly.
Here's what's funny. I'll put it out there. There's literally only been one person that I have been talking to for a year that I have physically not met yet, but we're trying to go out.
Sure.
And yet, not only does not anybody know who it is, but everybody who has what do they call it? Speculated on it has gotten it completely wrong.
Great.
And even then, we don't even know what will happen. I mean, it's like you don't know. I mean, but
yeah.
we just want to find out. But there's only been one person, and again, it is online. I haven't dated anybody, in real life. Haven't had time, energy, patience.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person at now. I really believe this. The only way I'm going to get probably back into any kind of serious relationship if somebody introduced me to somebody, because one, it takes the stress off. Is like, hey, like, does this person like me? If I ask them out, are they gonna like take it offensively? At least when you're set up with somebody, one, you have as an outside external person who's saying, hey, look, I think you two would be well suited for each other. So you've got that recommendation. The person you're going out with will trust their friend and say, hey, look, this is maybe a decent person to go out with. And three, I don't have to go out and do the work myself because it's tiresome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
I could see that.
Hook a brother up, man.
Okay. So
ahead.
curious then, what are
Yes.
your thoughts
Yes.
on romanticism? Like, are you, because I think, I've been talking to my stream about this. I really do think the world, like the whole world is built off like people who settle into relationships that are like good enough. This is fine. This is what I need. And then some people have like these once in a million feelings of like a soulmate, right? Let's not be too woo woo, but that person that's like
but those
so
are
compatible.
so rare, and God bless
it's like
them,
so
but
good,
rare.
right?
Mhm.
So, I think of like my parents that way or my friends' parents that way. You've been together over 40 years. It feels like who else would they have ever been with? It doesn't even, not that other people wouldn't be great, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so like when I think about dating and I think about the reason people aren't getting along is I think a lot more people are either interested in that because they don't necessarily need marriage anymore for cohabitation or money.
Mhm.
And then the reason men and women are going in those different directions is because like I think a lot of the time men seem to give off the signal, generally speaking, that they want just like anyone who's good enough. And some women who are in the same boat of anything is good enough want a man who's rich enough to be good enough. Right. But when people are looking for like soulmates or someone to do life with as like a team, I think that's a very different game. And I think those people are not in the dating game. They're like, because the
100%.
dating game feels like a competition between good enoughs. But if you're looking for a soulmate, then like you're not in competition with anyone else, right? Because you're just looking for this one person or this one of, let's say there's a million soulmates out there. You're looking for this one of the first million. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And I think we make our soulmates because I don't believe in any kind of divine providence, so to speak. I don't believe in hard determinism. And so I have dated, my share of women. I've never been married, which again, it's pretty telling. I mean, here's somebody that's, again, in his 50s, never been married once. But I've lived with people for, 6, 7 years, many times, which for all practical purposes is pretty much a marriage. You share your account, bank account, and all that other stuff. Had a child with somebody. My daughter is, now over 18. She's an adult now, which is just freaking me out. That she's actually an adult. My daughter's an adult. But I think we make our soulmates. I think what we do is we fall in love with people because, one, I do believe it is chemical, but we also try to foster molding people to our own likes and dislikes, and that's just how two people interact. When from experience, and I'm sure dating somebody and living with somebody are completely two different things.
Different.
Way different. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that when they get married or they live or cohabitate with someone, which I do think is still important. I think that cohabitation is especially in today's economy, is really necessary. I cohabitate. My roommate's female. We're strictly friends.
Nice.
I've known her 15 years. She's my sister. Like
Great.
Literally, I've adopted her pretty much as my sister.
Cute.
We're family. And we share everything. And so it's living with somebody is completely different, especially if you're in now a relationship with them. And people jump into these things and they don't realize how difficult it really is. They don't realize the compromise that they have to do. They don't realize the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
And I think that women generally, discuss the difference between men and women, how they think. I think women idealize it more. I think women idealize what they think it's going to be like, but men are more practical. And I think probably it's probably harder to live with a man than it is a woman, I think, for that reason.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because men are going to be compromising. We want the woman to be there. We like what women have to offer. So I think they tend to use that to their advantage more. So that's just
it's hard to say. I would say like I have a very specific type of person that I've always been attracted to, and I've been trying to find that trope.
The asshole.
And a healthy no.
That was your
and
thing
a healthy,
earlier. Yes, you
no,
did.
Oh, my toxic.
On.
Wait,
yes.
Wait,
yes.
what?
Early on in your dating, you had the toxic assholes.
Yes, but they were a specific trope. They weren't the asshole. I never wanted the asshole. I wanted
Okay.
the sweet gamer boys who always end up being assholes.
What? They ended up being what?
They always end up being assholes.
Okay, they end up being assholes. Okay.
Until you find the right one, which I eventually did. Because I do like a sweet gamer boy, somebody who's nerdy and likes video games or likes their
I
thing.
love nerdy women. Oh God.
I like somebody who's
Give me
like
a librarian
nerdy.
and I'm happy. Yes.
Yes.
Latina librarian.
If it was going to be a girl, I still wanted her to be nerdy. I just didn't necessarily think video games for her. I thought like art or like tarot or something like that. Just something she was obsessed with.
Geeky.
Something that was like her thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I ended up dating all these guys who fit the right trope or these girls who fit the right trope, but they were always like not ready. We were young, to be fair. And we were pretty like, I didn't have my values figured out till I was like 30. I was really like going back and forth with like, who am I? What am I doing? And so I think like living with some people, I've lived with 2 of my partners at this point, 3 now, if you count my husband. But the 2 people that I lived with before, oh my God, I learned so much about myself. Like expectations, they were always harder to live with, I think, because they wanted less. I noticed I've always dated really simple people. And I love that because I'm a pretty laid back person. I'm not very high maintenance, but it does mean that they tend to neglect like chores or tend to neglect like remembering to put food in the fridge, or they weren't thoughtful in that way. And now that I'm older and I've dated, and now married somebody, I married somebody who's very, very thoughtful and is in charge of making sure there's food in the fridge. And so like it is really nice,
It's called
but I will
having
say
consideration.
Which took a long time to find somebody who was like ready to do that job, because that job, to be considerate, is exhausting. It takes spoons. You have to be thoughtful. You have to think about somebody else. You have to like not just think about yourself. And when you're single, like my partner and I were both single when we met, of course, and we were living on our own. We weren't living with parents, and we had our habits figured out. We had our routines figured out. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, let's combine lives, which means combining routines or combining some sort of cohabitation lifestyle, which means we're going to have to see how the other person lives and what's that like. And we didn't live with each other technically before marriage. I mean, it was technically before the wedding, but it was like we were engaged.
Right.
And we had to learn to be like, and comes so naturally to be like extra considerate. Like, I'm not going to lie, it is really nice when you see them do an extra thing here and there and you're like, oh, I was in their mind. I was like thought about, which is so nice, versus I've dated other people where that just went right over their head.
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
And I see, I don't believe in pure altruism. It's just a concept.
Me neither.
Yeah. And
Me neither.
But I do believe that such a emotion does exist, that it makes you feel good about yourself by doing something for others. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not detrimental. You just have to be cognizant of it. You have to be aware that, look, nobody's purely altruistic. But like, for example, like I'll be out somewhere and I'll be like, okay, I'll see somebody like my roommate loves these Ruffles, sour cream, whatever they are, sour cream Ruffles.
And onion, sour cream and cheddar, sour cream and onion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her favorite, and I don't know if you price these things lately, but holy God Almighty, you need a second loan on your house,
bro.
I for chips, like even a small bag's like $6, big bag's like 10. It's insanity. But anyways, I'd be out somewhere and I would be looking at them and I'm thinking to myself, I gotta get these, and I'm bringing it home, and she'd be like, you brought me chips. Like,
that's so sweet.
Yeah, it's little things like that. And then and so I like that kind of stuff, but that's being considerate. But I think a lot of people, when you date somebody who's very selfish, very narcissistic, very I hate to even say it, but maybe sociopathic, they have diminished empathy, right? They have diminished abilities to put themselves in somebody else's shoes. And so they don't get these concepts. And I've dated them, and I'm sure you have too.
Sure.
And it's frustrating because
very frustrating.
You think they're good people, and they are generally.
Yeah. But
you can't get them to understand what you think is just normative, just how things ought to be, and you can't. It doesn't work. They're intransient. They will not adjust their mindset to something so simple and so and those don't work out. And those I don't know if you consider those toxic, but they're definitely not healthy.
I do. I'm a very I want healthy in my life because I know I've been there. I've been to therapy. I get it. But I definitely want more healthy. And being healthy is hard, by the way. Like, you do have to fight a lot of your internal workings, your biases, your fears. You have to every time my husband and I practice radical honesty with each other. And let me tell you, it's not made for the weak.
I'm not a fan of that policy either.
Yeah. See, we practice radical honesty. So we've had lots of conversations where I'm like, oh, now I know why people lie to each other. Okay. We are listening.
Let me tell you why. And again, it works for you. Great. I'm not trying to.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. So as you know, I tend to moral theory a little bit. And so I tend to what's called virtue ethics, which are virtues based upon characters. And so more of what's called aesthetic type approach. And so I think that Kant was wrong in his always have to be truthful to people and hyper honest, right? I think there's what's called a golden mean between a vice and two vices. And in the middle, here's my camera. So there's two vices, and in the middle there's a virtue, which is the golden mean. And that virtue is to be honest, but not brutally honest where you hurt somebody's feelings, in your case, radical, you called it, or dishonest, right? So dishonest in virtue epistemology is a bad thing. You don't want to be dishonest with people because they can never trust you. You can never build formative relationships. If I lied to you from day one and stuff like that, you would never trust me. We would be collabing. And so you don't want to be hyper honest because you don't want to hurt that person's feelings, because there's nothing more to be gained by doing that. And so I would be somebody who thinks that it is appropriate to lie to save somebody's feelings. That's virtuous, right? Because you're not, doing it for any kind of self-gain per se. You just don't want that other person to feel miserable, and there's no advantage for it. So if your radical approach is to be hyper honest, if it's constructive, then I can see it, right? But just to be hyper honest, it comes across as hypercritical.
Okay, I love this conversation. I put lying in two different categories, and that's like survival lying. So like a Nazi comes to the door and asks for the Jews, and you say I don't have any, because like that's within you don't want to.
Kant would argue that you're supposed to tell the truth.
Well, Kant was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm like, not a Kantian ethicist.
Obviously, I'm all about lying in survival situations. Yes. I'm also a person who personally, it tends to irk myself when I'm like dishonest. So from a personal perspective, maybe even a selfish one, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. So don't ask me a question you don't want the honest answer to.
That's true.
But also I'm happy to say like I'm not gonna answer that, or no. Or sometimes like I love to do this is my version. This is like where I think fun kind of, it's not lying, but it could be considered lying. You tell me if it is. Where I would, I got this from a novel series I used to read, where basically they're so good with their words, it's almost like lying without being lying. So you have to be like very aware of it. So people would say, Brittany, where do you live? And I would say, or they'd say, how many states away from California are you? And this was the time I didn't share my location. So I was like, well, if you're going to ask a question, I'll give you the answer. I'm 15 states away from California, depending on how you get there. And I was living in Arizona. So of course I'm one state away.
I knew all the time where you're from.
Right.
We live.
So like the joke is, right? It's like, I'm happy to play with words and stuff, but I don't want to be dishonest. I don't feel good about it, but I also don't think people want the truth when they ask for it. So usually what I'll say is like, do you really want this? Or how do you want me to say this? What are you really asking me?
Well,
you know what I mean?
For you, knowing your whereabouts, is that really something that is of a major importance for them to even know?
Oh, it's absolutely not necessary for them to know that, so I'll have fun with it. But like, especially when family and friends or people that are close to you, I think there's a feeling people get where they think they're owed to your inner thoughts. Like they are owed your inner thoughts. And I don't think people are. So when they ask you something, I don't think they know how inappropriate it is that they're even asking.
Yeah.
And so I think what sorry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're asking for your internal monologue.
Right. And I think the only person I ever feel comfortable sharing that with is my husband. And that's what we've negotiated to do. And I'm not saying everyone should do it. I'm just saying we've decided to do it. And it is a very unique experience. I've never done it with anybody else. I've never had a partner that was, or I've never been with someone I wanted to be this transparent with ever in my life. And it is difficult sometimes hearing that inner monologue. And you're like, oh, okay, wait. And so I think we have a very unique case where we like to discuss things analytically or emotionally. So I'll say like, do you want me to respond to this emotionally? Like in my feelings?
That would drive me crazy. I would lose my mind. I couldn't deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, when I say like, I found my soulmate girl, let me tell you.
Yeah. If it works out for both of you, then you got lucky. You found somebody that can appreciate that. I would be, I hate to say it, I would be so, not only turned off, I would be probably, repulse is probably a strong word, but I would be like, oh God, no, just you know what? Go away. Please just go.
I think that's so important to know about yourself because, okay, people would tell me, they're like, Brittany, you're being too picky. Like lots of people would want to be with you. And I was like, but do they? Because do they know I'm going to ask them like these little, like I'm a very specific person when I'm at home and unmasked. When I'm just like completely myself, I'm the same person, but it's more. It's like a lot, and I'm not just going to ask anybody to do that with me for life. And so the fact that I found this person, I couldn't have been anyone else, but it could have been many other people. It's just, he was the first one I found and the only one I'll choose. But it is kind of amazing to have this connection. So when I hear the dating struggles of the world, I never know if people are dating for the consciousness or for the convenience. I never know if people are actually interested in like the soul of the person or in the convenience of the person. And so I always look at these dating statistics and this loneliness epidemic, and I'm kind of convinced that people need to first decide that. Do I want the actual person, or do I want the conveniences that come with dating that person?
Well, it could be a combination. I mean, for example, like
Sure.
the person that I've been talking for a year, whether we meet up or not is going to be, irrelevant. I'm pretty
Sure.
confident that eventually we'll at least go on one date. It's been promised. It's been ordained, right? But I don't think either one of us would ever think, oh, that we're soulmates or anything like that. It's nothing even like that. It is just we've grown to trust each other. I literally only have like 3 people, besides my daughter, obviously, but
Sure.
3 people that I trust explicitly. 3.
Yeah.
And that's my roommate, who's my family, the person that I've been talking for about a year, I trust explicitly. And then,
Yeah.
you remember Reg Rhetoric, who was
Yeah.
with the Non-Sequitur Show. I mean, that dude is,
Yeah.
one of the all-time greatest people I've ever met. But that's it. I mean, even though I adore you and other people, we live different lives and like that, and I would trust you up to a point, but I'm not going to share
Sure.
my most personal stuff because
Right.
one, I wouldn't put it on you. I wouldn't feel like it's something that, one, you don't need
Sure.
to know, and 2, it's nothing you would want to have to deal with. It's so
Sure.
yeah, and that's a matter of respect also.
Of course.
Because
boundaries and yeah, of course.
We don't want people trauma dumping on us just because they're
Right.
friends. It's like there's not that kind of like.
No, I agree. I have
relationship.
I have very specific relationships where, like, you're right. You want to share that with certain people or with, absolutely. I think this is really, really important.
Yeah, and so the people that we do tend to share with, even there, I'm not hypercritical of them. I'm not sharing my internal monologue, so to speak.
Sure.
But I think they know me well enough that I don't really need to. There's nothing about me that is so what's the word, bizarre that if somebody found I wouldn't care. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been accused of literally, and I mean literally, being a cult leader.
Oh, I get that accusation all the time. It's so funny.
But yours wasn't to the point where it became, they wanted the guy. Remember the Nixium sex scandal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Frank Parlato Jr. was the American journalist that broke that story. You heard of that name?
Okay. I don't know it, but okay.
Yeah. They wanted him to interview me as a sex cult leader.
Stop it.
And not only did that happen, we ended up talking, and Frank became was a co-host for an episode on the show.
Shut up. That's so cool.
And so I turned it to my advantage. But they were also like trying to, hey, you need to go talk to Chris Hansen from Catch a Predator, even because I know his producer.
Yeah, I've been on Chris.
Yeah, I know you have, and I was on a different thing for somebody else. But then people were like, "Oh, well, you need to investigate Steve because he's an atheist sex cult leader." I'm not even joking. He goes to hotel rooms in various states and talks philosophy to meet women. I'm like, that sounds really cool. But when the fuck did this ever happen? But people were believing this stuff. People were believing it.
I know. People are so funny, bro. Like the way I'm like, honestly, if I ever had time to run a cult, like, bro, as if I literally stream 5 days a week, bro.
Right? Who is the time? And first of all, nobody listens to me anyways.
Literally, please.
My audience still, if we actually had a cult, my audience couldn't decide between a white robe and a purple robe. That would be that would take a year for them to figure out.
I think people are bored, and I think it's just like kind of fun to do, which, to be frank, like, you do you can start a rumor if you want, but like, it is one of those things where I think at this point in my life, I think it's all just kind of funny. But of course, when it gets to legal stuff or court stuff,
personal,
it's not funny anymore.
It went real life.
Yeah, I know.
There's actually been allegations. I had, as you know, somebody years ago falsely accused me of sexual harassment, and
I know.
And even though that I was completely vindicated, you don't think that hasn't affected me?
Sure.
Of course it has.
I know. Yeah, of course.
But we won't go into the details of it, but look how far that person has now gone on YouTube, how many people now are affected by it because they now realize that, this person has always been like that. They've done this before. But at the time, as somebody who couldn't protect myself because as a male,
it feels devastating.
Yeah, the Me Too movement, I understand the reason behind it. I really do.
Sure.
And I absolutely think that every woman should be taken seriously, but that doesn't mean you should automatically believe by fiat. That's not what the Me Too movement was for.
I don't this is my neurodivergency, maybe. I don't like the idea like anyone should be taken seriously. Anyone who's telling the truth should be heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is different.
But you still have to investigate, right? I mean, if somebody makes
of course,
I have no problem with. But when that investigation is done, and it
Yeah.
comes out that that person had lied like this person did,
Sure.
there needs to be repercussions. There needs to be not
You
just
know-
societal, but I think legal repercussions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's this what story was it that recently broke where somebody was falsely accused? I don't remember. It was a young guy. And after he was vindicated, it got way less clicks than the original accusation clicks. So of course, more people go away with the drama or with the salacious, headlines. And so that's kind of a bummer when vindication is done, when people are proven innocent, that gets much less viewership, which
It does.
is always like the biggest bummer of it. Yeah.
But I'm not on you. Even though I'm promoting, the subscriptions and subscribers and all this other stuff. I don't do it for that. And so what I put out is going to be the truth. And
Yeah.
so people don't really care anymore. It's been 5 years, and yet
Yeah.
this person still brings it up. And yet people have all said, "Look, we know you're lying now on this." And
Yeah.
their stories now changed 6 times.
But isn't that mental illness? Like, tell me that's
It
not
is.
mental
No, it
illness.
is. No, this person is a definitive narcissist.
Yeah.
This person is a definitive
Yeah.
sociopath. I mean, and big YouTubers have been making videos about them now for that
Yeah.
very thing. And I don't even want to give their name out because I don't want to draw
Right.
any attention to them. But had they would listen to me ages ago when this person was a co-host on my show and started on my show, if I was taken seriously, it would have prevented so much harm. But as a man who was accused of something, I was automatically behind the 8 ball. I automatically had catch up to do, right?
Sure.
And even though it came out in court that the person
Mhm.
that they had talked about, who was believing, they not only lied to the court, they were found guilty of criminal and civil and criminal contempt, and went to jail for criminal contempt. If that's
Mhm.
not vindication that I was telling the truth, I don't know what would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know. It is very, like, I feel like the dilemma, of course, is the justice system is sometimes right and often wrong. And so, like, it is a complicated kind of reality that we all have, to deal with. Do you feel safe being on the internet after something like that?
Oh,
Do
no.
you?
Oh no, I am taking.
Then why be here? Is it that-
I am
like,
taking so many precautions lately of some of these things. I've already spent, and I really hate to say it, but I probably spent between $25,000 and $30,000 on legal costs since I've been on YouTube.
Damn.
Every dime I ever made on YouTube has been spent on legal. The lawyers made all the money. I have somebody who owes me. He owes me $130,000, which I'll never see. Yeah, I'll never see a dime of it.
Oh, is it who I think it is?
Yeah. But it's okay because I'm going to at least transfer that to my daughter one day. We've already made
Sure.
arrangements. It's that debt will stay. It can be renewed in every 10 years.
Wow.
And so maybe she might get something out of it. That's my main goal, is that she can
Sure.
continue it and get something out of it. But like I said, YouTube has not been a moneymaker for me. Even though it was a very successful channel, even though, somebody else made 60 grand on it and I made 0,
Mm-hmm.
even though we started together. So there's a lot. Yeah, I've done a lot now, especially recently, to protect myself because you have no choice. I've had, people say, well, Steve, you said he was swatted, and I was swatted legally by the law, which means that somebody had called in a false police report for domestic violence where they come in a little bit hotter, right? That to me, by law, according to my lawyer, is considered swatting because it's the act
Sure.
of swatting, not the consequence. Just because they came and they weren't guns a-blazing doesn't mean that it was at least a swatting attempt, but under the eyes of law, that person could have been charged with swatting because swatting is the act of raising the elevation of a call to get a higher response. In the
Sure.
state,
Yeah.
in
Was there
California.
like I always thought swatting was just like getting the people to come into your house because they assume like you're going to do something dangerous or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it could be a lot of different reasons, a lot of different things. But
Okay.
but that information, being out there, it's distressful, that people can find
Yeah,
you
no.
so easily.
No, even I'm super cautious still. Like, I just feel like I try my best not to be too out there with stuff, and I try to be cautious, because we all have moments on the internet where it just sucks.
Mhm.
I think that's a part of the job. I know for me it is worth it, but it doesn't mean that it's not stressful. It doesn't mean that we don't have to take precaution. Like, my husband's not on the internet. I don't put him on the internet. He's not even an online person. Like, he doesn't even really have social media, for the most part. He's a gamer, so he has Discord or whatever, but he doesn't have a public persona. And so, like, just first of all, that's kind of so nice, but also it is kind of, I try to be private about my life. I don't talk about my family or friends, and I still use like nicknames for my family. You know what I mean? Just to like, instead of saying their real names, I just try to do little things here and there, like little things here and there that makes it clear, like, this is about me. They didn't decide to be content creators. You know what I mean? But it is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well,
definitely
I said to my daughter. My daughter does not have any social media presence.
Yeah.
She doesn't have Facebook. She doesn't have Twitter. Nothing. She doesn't want any of it. She doesn't.
So here's the question then. What is it about this space that keeps you coming back even for just a hobby?
Because it is my outlet. It is my way to keep my mental state, my well-being. Because I've, as you know, I've had, maybe you don't know, I don't know, but a couple years ago, my depression got worse. And I've had to call the VA, and even 6 months ago, I stopped streaming for like 4 or 5 months. And it is a biological chemical thing. It is not, just, I'm just not feeling happy. It is a biological low serotonin. And I was put on a serotonin reuptake inhibitor ages ago, and I didn't like it. I don't like any of that stuff. I don't like the drugs. So I compensate it with caffeine, right? I drink coffee, I have Monster drinks, and it works great, but then obviously you crash. But I do it online because that's my way of maintaining my I think, mental sanity.
Yeah.
It could exacerbate it too sometimes.
I definitely can get stressful too. No, that's funny you say that, because I always ask myself, like, what keeps me here? What makes me want to do this as a career, and like very seriously. And it's one, I just feel like it hits all the good points of my brain. It just gives me all the like dopamine hits I need, I guess you could say. Like, I just feel so great doing this job. And even though like I can get tired, I can get stressful sometimes, or sitting in this chair fucks with my fibro, I just know that afterwards I'm still going to be so happy I did it. And it feels so great after. And I just feel so good about my content, or, building the community that I build, or what, everything just feels very rewarding. Plus, I just love having discussions, Yeah,
it's positive, right? And same thing with me. I'm having more discussions with people. I'm having people message me, even as, we speak today, about setting up things on Saturday and some other stuff. And they like my reviews. It's a positive feedback. That whether you want to say it's a dopamine hit or not a dopamine hit, it still makes you feel good about yourself, and also you're contributing back. Because when I do my reviews, like I'm having a series called Learning About Atheism. As you know, I'm agnostic, but I want atheists to be better at their argumentation. I want theists to be better at their argumentation. And so when people watch my stuff and they go, man, that's a pretty good review. I like the way Steve is looking at this particular thing. That's what they come to you for. They like the way that you review things and you look at things, because they like your perspective. And also, I think you challenge people to reevaluate their perspectives, and that's engaging the audience. That's what I think people return is, you're not just telling what they want to hear. Anybody can do that. I'm sorry, but you don't need any talent to tell somebody what they want to hear. You need the talent to be able to, one, understand the topics, process them, and then espouse them and deliberate them with your people. And that's something that takes time to learn a skill set, and you've obviously mastered it. And I think that's why you have your audience.
Stop it right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm learning. But you're right.
Nice
I do.
Jeez. Where's my show check? Whatever.
Everybody go subscribe to Steve, since he's so nice to me.
Give me a subscription. Yeah, exactly. Come subscribe. I need like I don't think 40 more subscribers. That's it. 40 more. I don't know how many people are watching yours, but not. I gotta like.
I don't know. I can't tell how many people are watching mine, actually. YouTube's been
40 on mine.
Yeah, the YouTube counter's been down for me, so I don't know how many people are watching the stream right now. But hi, guys.
Yeah.
No, that is what I want to do. And I also learned so much from my audience. Like, I always joke, like, I'm like, pop my bubble today, guys, because like, teach me something I didn't think about before, or expose me to a culture. Like, okay, I learned like about surprise cakes the other day, or surprise, guys, what is it called? Surprise cakes, where like there are cultural traditions where you hide the cake. Oh, hide a cake, where you hide the cake and then you.
I thought you hide something in the cake.
No, you just hide that cake, and then you surprise, and I'm like, oh, and like that was new to me, and I was like, oh, I learned something new, and like stuff like that. I just get so excited about, like, oh, how are you doing life? Like, how are you living life? Because especially coming from America, like I'm living in Croatia now. It's been great. Look at me, my little European me, and to be honest, like it's not like I leave the house often. People here don't speak English, and that's really lovely. And I can't wait to integrate myself more into the culture. My mother-in-law was trying to test my Croatian yesterday, and I failed miserably because it's very hard. But it's nice to know that people are living differently, and I get to walk outside and try to see the world for what it could be for somebody else and not just like my way is the highway. And I grew up in such a specific religious bubble that felt like their way is universally the best way for everybody, even though they mean well and they really do mean well. It really is amazing how humans think. Like if everyone just thought like me, like I don't believe this. I feel like if everyone thought like, if everyone thought like me, a lot of them would be miserable. Like you would be miserable in my relationship, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes. But do you fit in Croatia? I mean, because you have that look of a Mediterranean, obviously, because you have Eastern descent. But I mean, do they even think that you're from America? Do they start talking in Croatia?
Let me tell you this. They know I'm from America because of the way I dress, the way I walk, and the way I talk. Like, but they can hear it. Like I'll say a word and they're like, "Oh, American," and I'm like, and they can tell. They're very like, "Where are you from? What's up? Who are you?" I just did my first dentist appointment here. First of all, I totally recommend Croatian dentist. Like, I paid like max for everything. 2 appointments was like $500 to put a bunch of fillings in my mouth. In America, the same procedure was going to be $3,500.
Oh yeah. I mean, the cost of living here is beyond
insane.
measure.
No, it's beyond. Like my siblings, like some of them are renting 1-bedrooms for $2,000 a month. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine. Like in California, in Southern California, that's outrageous. But yeah, I fit in here in a sense, like meaning that they are nice to me and we mind our business. Croatians also, unlike me, who smile and waves at everyone, you're not supposed to do that here. So I learned to be a little less friendly. They're very like mind your business, but also be kind when necessary. And I kind of like that. It's really nice. So I would say that I'm fitting in a sense because I'm learning to mind my business like everybody else.
I wouldn't mind that. I'm getting subscriptions. I hear it. Not subscriptions.
Nice.
Subscribers. So I got 3 more subscribers. Yes.
Let's go.
We'll get to that 30,000. I'm so close. Like I said, I think last time I looked, I was at 29,944. So that was. So I mean, I should be able to get 60 in the last couple of days. So today maybe. But I'm OCD like that. I want that even number, right? Right?
That's great. I hope you get it.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, no, I agree with you as far as like the different types of cultures or mind your own business kind of cultures, or some of them are a lot more community. Yeah, like where I'm at, it's probably a little bit of a mixture of both. But they watch out for each other. Like when I first moved in here, her neighbors were like, "Who's this guy?" They were watching out for her.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
And then the very like first or second night, I saw the neighbors over there, and there's some gangbangers around the area too. You want to make sure that you don't piss anybody off. But I was like, hey, I'm going to Del Taco. You guys want some tacos? And they're out there just chugging beers and listening to some mariachi music and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah. So I got them tacos, and there you go. 2 years later, we're like.
I like that. Yeah. Are you still abouts in the same areas? Give or take?
Somewhere. I'm still in California. Okay. No. From where we went to go have coffee?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. No, but still in Cali. We love Cali. Yeah. Cali's so expensive. I don't know how you're doing it, bro. Arizona was expensive.
Well, lucky one, I have a roommate, and it's rough. It has been a struggle. I've had very kind people. They've given me some money because again, it was hurting. I was hurting. I gave my money. I gave some money for my daughter, and just look. Life. Everybody has the same struggle, but luckily that I have been fortunate to have very good people that I helped out in the past. They've helped me out, and there's that reciprocity there.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Now, I'm curious in relation to men and women. I was thinking about ideologically in terms of politics. Have you been keeping up with politics and those changes? Just around the country in general?
Specificities. I mean, obviously, I'm a centrist. I want like pretty much all the politicians to like leave and start fresh. I'm not a Biden fan, and I'm certainly not a Trump fan. So no offense to your audience if they're either Biden or Trump.
Oh, they're a mix. Some of them are very political.
I'm not a fan of either one of them. So
I don't think I don't think there's any diehard Trump or Biden fans in my audience. I think most people know how they're voting.
They're not all MAGA?
Probably no. Like we all know where we're probably heading, or where we'd rather vote, or how we'd rather see the country go in general. But in terms of like men and women, have you noticed any differences between like your friends or where they're voting? Or like I've noticed a lot of my girlfriends much more liberal, much more progressive, much more pro LGBT. Some of the guy friends going in a more conservative kind of route, like trying to be open, but also just more like, you know, they want a more conservative end up, like a sort of ending, like like they're more MAGA for sure. The women are more Biden, the men are more MAGA.
See, I've seen more women MAGA.
Really?
Yeah, well, at least on Twitter.
Oh.
Well, okay, so a little bit to unpack there. I, being the centrist, have issues when I see two extremes on a particular issue, right?
Sure.
I grew up supporting things like the LGBTQ+. It used to be just called the LGP. I left the Mormon church because I didn't like their stance on gay marriage, right? I've always been straight 100% of my life. I'd be considered what's called cisgender, heterosexual, male, typical, you know. But I've always supported my gay friends 100%. And then you have these the radicalized version of the trans movement, which I have spoken out against with my friends who are trans, who have spoken out about it. And so in the political sense, like, for example, there's a bill that just came out or being voted on that says if the parents do not affirm a child's wanting to have hormone replacement therapy, and I think even a gender reassignment surgery, then they can be considered to be charged with child abuse. If that doesn't go way beyond the boundary of supporting the community, I don't know what would. When you're trying to put the government in charge of parental rights, because that's jumping the shark. First of all, I don't believe that children should have these things. In the most extreme cases, I'm not an absolutist, but in most cases, kids grow out of things. They might just be gay. You know, just because your child is a male and he happens to like, you know, dressing up, or he happens to like playing dolls, so what? Maybe he's effeminate, maybe he's gay. Who cares, right? I mean, this is part of life. But what happens is I think the parents want somebody to be like this new trans movement where they tell that child, oh, you're not gay, you're not effeminate, you're not, you know, cross-dresser or whatever. You're trans. You have to have these hormone replacement therapies. You have to have these gender reassignment therapies. And the child grows up and they suffer the cost for that. They're infertile. They have osteoporosis. And so, yeah, when you talk about the political, that's what I would get into, because I want a more cohesive middle ground, you know, rather than these polarizing, diametrically opposed opposites.
Do you think like kids who want to get vaccinated and their parents don't want to vaccinate them should have the right to get vaccinated?
Ooh. Yes, and let me tell you why. Vaccinations have already been established as safe. They've already been. Look, when we grew up, we had, you know, obviously the rubella, we had the measles, we had the tuberculosis immunizations. I didn't have the ring, but way back when, if you see people with a round ring here, they had too. But you know, all of us are, when we were born, we go through a series of immunizations and booster shots. This is standard. This is something that is mandated by the government because it's a society factor. We have obligations and contractualism to society. So I think that in itself, that's something that, yes, the child could want because they want to be healthy, and that has been approved from the government. That's not violating parental rights. That's like saying, hey, if the child wants to be fed, but the parents don't want to give him food. Yeah.
I'm just trying to gauge your like thought process in it, you know, because I'm very pro LGBT, very pro trans, very pro trans affirming. Of course, I'm a hesitator when it comes to anything kind of permanent in at any point in someone's life, but also like once you get to a certain age, like you permanently change your body however you want.
Well, look,
you know what I mean?
After 18, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I'm wondering like the scenario though, where like you have really conservative parents. You know, okay, an atheist had this debate. I think it was The Amazing Atheist. I could be wrong, but I think it was TJ way back in the day where we talked about the harms of children being forced to be religious. Like I always joke I have borderline personality disorder and I blame religion. And like the joke is like, well, what if I wasn't born in this like anti-gay home? Like I wouldn't have it. Like it makes no sense. And then we were laughing that is it really religion or how you have the relationship with the religion? Well, same with the trans stuff where you want your kid to be affirmed, but also if you're raised in a home in which you are not going to be affirmed for that, I doubt getting physically transition is going to help you much. But I do wonder, like, there's always going to be crazies, right? There are always going to be people who purposely transition their kids or deny their kids transition or torture their kids for whatever. Like there's always going to be bad people who happen to have kids, right? Like bad people have kids every day. And so I always wonder, like, where's our line? But I could see a situation, I suppose, where maybe a child, like you said, in a very rare circumstance could need to physically transition as a minor. But generally speaking, my husband and I, that's, by the way, my first date question. My first date question to see if we're going to get to a second one is, what do you do if we have trans kids?
Oh, you really?
Because
wait, you really do? Like you do the questioning thing the first date?
Oh, I do everything. What's your finances look like? What's your, do you have...
Were they the ones that then later on said, you know what, I'm cool with not having a second. It's cool. You're cool, but just, yeah.
They never passed the questionnaire, sir. But really,
okay, sure.
What it is more than that, they always say, look, every person has told me, they're like, this date feels kind of like an interview. And I was like, yep. Even my husband told me that.
Yeah,
he was like, it was an 8-hour first date. It was an interview.
What's funny is it wouldn't bother me to have that if I knew what I was getting into, rather than there's off the wall. It would be more maybe jarring. But if I knew what I was getting into, I was like, go for it. Listen, I like to consider myself a conversationalist, so I'm okay with that. But I like to be aware of what's happening, right?
Well,
yeah. But
so that's the question I ask people though, and then we get into it because I want to know how much they've thought about it, because I've met a lot of people who are well-intentioned, but they think like, we'll just get married and we'll have a baby. And I'm like, we're not just having a baby.
I wouldn't care if my child was trans, but again, nothing permanent until after 18.
Sure. Like, I think I'm mostly on that, except for rare circumstances. I think I want to reaffirm them to every degree I can without permanently changing anything.
Right.
Mostly because I've heard about kids that had transitioned early, and not that they regretted it or weren't trans, but that they weren't able to get the right reassignment surgery eventually that actually gave them the most functionality.
But those, here's the thing. Here's the brute fact. Those reassignment surgeries, they don't accomplish anywhere near what they've been promised to the people.
Sure.
And I don't think, because, okay, real talk here. Many, I'd probably say the vast majority of people in those situations, it's clear that most of them have gender dysphoria. That's pretty standard. That's actually, one of the clinical diagnoses for trans is gender dysphoria. But a lot of them also have comorbid issues. They also have the depression, anxiety, OCD, ADD, ADHD. They all have, almost all of them have some kind of comorbidity that they're not being addressed. And so I do think that a lot of people are taking advantage of people who, they want to be trans because it's the cool thing to do. It's the it's society, and that's making it difficult for the people like my friend Jessica Gill, who is trans, who hasn't done it for any societal benefits. She hasn't done it to, want to make herself popular. It was her choice later on in life because that's how she really honestly feels. And that's to be respected. But she's not going around advocating that everybody should become trans. And she's definitely against biological males competing in women's spaces for sports, because no matter how much hormone replacement therapy you have, I am sorry, it is a biological fact, and as somebody who actually likes biology, men are always going to have advantages, whether it be lung capacity, heart capacity, fast and slow muscle twitch fibers. These are all going to be things that different because they had went through male puberty. It's not reversible. It's immutable that you're going to have one of two biological pathways, male or female. And when you have a male who is so predominantly physically dominant in a female space sports, it is almost inevitable that women are going to get injured.
What about this as a solution? What about this? What about we just get rid of sports?
Well, no, I don't think we should get rid of sports. People like sports.
I'm too gay to care about sports. That's kind of my rule of thumb. I'm too gay to care about. My husband and I joke we're too gay to care about sports.
No. I'm not a big super fan of sports. I don't really play anything, but I'll watch like the Super Bowl or something. But people who like sports, they're competitive. I happen to like women's gymnastics ever since Nadia Comaneci. I used to watch in the Olympics. People don't really know that about me, but I'm fascinated by people doing the parallel bars, the pommel horse.
Yeah, it's cool.
Floor gymnastics, I think, is graceful.
It is cool.
Majestic.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who is born physically male that is now really clearly competing against women who are not going to be able to fairly compete, I don't know how anybody could say that has anything to do with fairness. That is not inclusive.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in fairness, first and foremost. I don't know. See, for me, I'm so removed from caring about this particular bubble that a part of me is just like, I don't know, it sounds like a self-inflicted wound. Like sports itself are a construct, right? Like they're made up. And so it feels weird that we can't make up new rules, but also I don't care if we don't make up new rules. Like I don't think it's going to ruin trans athletes' life to not compete, but I also don't think it's going to ruin anyone's life not to compete. I feel like when people act like when they make the sport their whole life, I think that was the first mistake, but also what you need to do to be an athlete, right? So I kind of feel like
you got some Steve haters now in your chat. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah.
According to them, I'm a transphobe because I platform trans people. I guess that's bad.
Well, I think the dilemma is that like you talk about transness in a way that I don't talk about transness, and they're used to the way that I probably talk about transness.
No, but these are people that have supposedly known me for 7 years, telling how horrible I am with trans people.
Okay, here, you want me to challenge you a bit?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So the way you talk signals to people who don't know you, because you're using the same talking points conservatives do. Mm-hmm. So they're thinking you're conservative.
No, I'm not conservative.
Right. But which would, and even me, I'm listening to you. I'm like, oh, I'm much more progressive than Steve is. Like, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh, we don't agree with this. But like, it's okay. We don't have to agree.
Well,
right?
What is it you disagree with? Like, I think we actually do agree.
I don't care if trans people are in sports.
Okay, but that's ambivalence, right? You're not really
kind of.
You're not really disagreeing.
Yeah. Kind of. I also am aware that cis women also are like taken out of sports because of the way their biology has given them advantages over time, and I think that's kind of bullshit. So I just feel like no one knows what to do with this construct they've created. And so it is one of those things where I don't think there's a perfect way to make a solution, but I think acting like we know the perfect way is sort of like the annoying part to me. Mm-hmm. It's a very complicated thing. Whether you're trans or cis, you've probably dreamt of being here, or maybe you feel like there's no place for you. Or I've heard cis women complain, and athletes, athletic people complain like, I lost because it was a trans person, but like not very many trans people are winning in the first place. So it feels like a fear that people are exaggerating.
Well, it's obviously not the norm because, again, trans people are a very small minority compared to the rest.
Sure,
of the
but they don't win every match they're in.
But no, but the ones that they do have been so unfairly won, and that's what they're
maybe. Yeah. I definitely think a couple of them maybe. I just don't know how I feel about the idea of unfairness in this regard, or like, yeah, I think it's complicated. Or I could see a reason why we put a law on the books. It is. I think it is complicated, and so I think I could understand everyone's position on it, but I can see why. Okay, I don't know who's in my chat now, but I'm gonna block. I don't know who Laura is. Who's Laura?
I have no idea.
Did you do something?
No, but I have a troll fan base. You know that. Yeah.
Okay.
Based upon the fact that, again, proven years ago that I was telling the truth, but there's still people out there that, even though the court records speak for themselves,
block them.
Well, they're blocked on my end. I can't block.
Oh, okay, they're blocked. Okay.
But my mods are amazing. I got autistic Shell, who's just, she's a quintessential.
On top of it.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
She's pro.
I think she came into my chat earlier, but I could be wrong. Maybe.
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah, she actually mods for quite a few people. But I think people, what they need to do is look at where somebody's coming from. There's two things that I think need to be really focused on. One, inclusiveness. I absolutely believe in inclusiveness. Again, I left the church because they were not inclusive. They were saying that people should not get married. I'm like, screw you, right? And two, safety. Safety has to be taken into account. Women, and this is not like, oh, women are feeble, but I'm telling you, you're not going to put Mike Tyson against a trans person. If Mike Tyson became trans, do you think there's any woman on the planet that would compete with her at that point?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think, if I'm being honest with you, I think if we lived in a society like this, that's the thing. Like everyone lives in a different part of society. Everyone operates in a different part, and everybody wants the same outcome regardless. I think the dilemma is always going to be about, are we first going to recognize like we're a bunch of adults who created a thing we call a sport, and now we've all decided to do it, and it's a tradition that's lasted thousands of years or whatever. But like we are just making it up. Like we're choosing to spend our time doing this. We're choosing to put billions of dollars into this, right? And so it feels kind of fair to worry about it, but I don't believe people care about people. I think they care about money. I don't believe they care about the safety of people as much as they care about people, because even the athlete that's willing to go into the ring knowing they are going to like beat the shit out of that person because they've transitioned, like that's a shitty person.
Well, yeah, but not all. I mean, like, for example, like I said, Jessica Gill, who transitioned later on in life, she knows, because she was a professional cyclist. She was like one of the top. She knows that if she competes because of experience with just biologically women cyclists.
Okay, I agree.
dominate.
I don't think every trans person has that same experience.
No, of course not. No, of course not. No.
So I think it's more like
not to
that.
generalize, yeah.
I think like if we could make it so it's not like every trans person is barred versus every person, regardless of whatever, who hits these points.
How do you decide then, though? How do you?
Well, you're right. How do we decide that? You're right. That's what I'm saying. It gets complicated. Like you know what I mean? So it feels weird, but obviously like we're very pro trans here, but also everyone's having a different relationship. Yeah. Like I acknowledge non-binary people as trans. I know some people don't. Like everyone has a different relationship with those things. You can ask a non-binary
if they're trans. Some say yes, some say no. I mean,
I know.
There's no objective fact of the matter there because it is, as you said, it's constructive. It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it is complicated, but I would say like that's the only reason I think chat was like a little confused about like what the fuck is happening, and I was like nothing's happening. We're just talking. We're just talking.
Well, and here's the thing, though. Again, literally the reason I have trans people on my channel is to support trans people.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
I mean, and it's weird because I've actually even had people go, hey Steve, you're now in the woke society. You're now a far left, liberal too. It's like, wait a minute, no, I'm a centrist. Okay, I try to like bring people together from different sides. But I literally had people be upset, going, well, why, like the Andrew Wilson, they're that kind of crowd. They're not a big fan of the trans community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have people say, well, why do you have Andrew Wilson on? Well, the same reason I had a trans person on, because again, let's have the conversation.
Now, do you engage with like in our community here? I try not to change people's minds. Like I don't care about changing your mind. I just want to have the discussion to see if you can give me a tool I don't have, or to exchange ideas, because I think there's a lot of fear people are living with every day of like they just want to change me. They want to change who I am. And I'm like, everybody relax. We just want to see if we can get along better, which would mean some sort of a compromise even as a society, right? It's funny we're willing to compromise in romantic relationships, but we don't think we have to compromise in society. Of course, we're going to have to compromise, And it's like, what does that compromise look like? And I think that's the question. Sports are really difficult because it involves so many people, but at the same time, not everybody's into sports. My family they don't watch the Super Bowl. They haven't watched the Super Bowl in like 20 years. But for some people,
it's polarizing though.
It is polarizing. It is.
So
Sports,
people don't want to have polarizing discussions because you're not going to please everybody. I mean, no matter how whatever stance I take, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get 100% approval.
For sure.
It's not. You can't.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, I figured now, being in the middle, I really only piss off the far fringe, which is okay with me. I mean, they're far fringe. But the more moderates, whether you accept one thing or another way, you at least go, hey, look, we can have these dialogues, and we can have a conversation to see where is it we can find these middle grounds, because I'm not an absolutist in hardly anything. So even when it comes to the most tumultuous, most, what's the word? We know, like hypersensitive topics, whether it be trans in sports or abortion, politics, there's always people in the middle that look at both sides and go, look, you know what? We have to be able to at least discuss this, whether you guys get along or not, but don't shut down our discussions. You don't want to have them? That's fine. Don't try to shut down the far left. Don't try to shut down the far right. Find out what you agree with, you don't agree with, but talk about it, because that's the only way things are going to get resolved. I'm sorry, but the center is how things get resolved. The far left, they don't do anything to resolve anything. They're intractable. They will not change their position. You're not putting things out there for that fringe group. They're not going to change. But it's
I mean, obviously,
the voters.
I think the problem is like the middle. Yeah, I think ultimately, okay.
Yeah. I know who they're for. This is somebody who goes back like 7 years, who's now trans, who I didn't know was even trans at the time.
So annoying.
Yeah. They weren't trans when I knew.
I kept their money, but I blocked you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so weird. Riddle me this. I haven't mentioned this person in years. Years. Like,
ignore them. They're just
to do with them. But here's the
humans are going to human.
When I knew this person, they were not trans, and they accused me of hitting on them as a male before they're transitioning. And I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? I'm sorry. I'm straight. People know this. And so it made no sense. It made no sense.
It's the internet. It's the internet.
I'm like, but people are like, well, they're trans. I'm like, yeah, but what does that have to do with me? They're transitioned long after I stopped talking to them. And they still, for 5 years, come after me. That's psychotic.
Well, I think it probably is.
But this is why a lot of people don't want to have these discussions. They deal with this kind of mental unwellness because this person is mentally unwell, literally mentally unwell. It's not just me being hyperbolic. People know this. It's like, why would you hyperfixate on somebody that you have not spoken to in 5 years that wanted nothing to do with you? Because
how about this?
I didn't give them the attention they wanted. That I said, my personal space, go away.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think I worked really hard the last few years to let go of all the sort of resentment I had for my stalker. Because like at some point you just gotta like feel bad for people. I think take their money and feel bad for them, like this chatter.
But that's that is creepy behavior.
It is, but what are you going to do? Humans are creepy. Humans are absurd. I mean, humans are genociding people in the Middle East right now. Like, humans are just weird. They're weird. They're weird little creatures.
But this is what you have to watch out for, don't you? I mean, you have to be able to, like, protect yourself from people that are this mentally unwell. When I see signs of mental unwellness, I really have, a hard time trying to befriend that person because I can see what happens when somebody who is mentally unwell goes in real life. Somebody who's mentally unwell that cannot handle somebody not wanting to be friends with them.
Yeah, I would say like I love mentally unwell people. Thank you for being in my audience. I just like the ones that are aware they're mentally unwell.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, normal mentally unwellness, I love.
Yeah, people who are working on it in therapy.
Right,
but it's the ones who don't know. Like, literally a couple years ago, I was
aware of your unwellness.
I was on my friend's stream and my stalker showed up in the chat. And I was like, hey, my stalker's in the chat. Like, can you ban them? And everyone was like, hey, are you Brittany's stalker? And she was like, yeah, I am. And everyone's like, why did you just admit it? And then like, she's sick. Like, you can't be a stalker and not be mentally unwell.
I know.
It's sad.
That's what I'm saying.
It's super sad.
But here's, okay. And people know I love my audience. You love your audience.
I do.
Unfortunately, no matter how much you connect with them, you can never explain to them the fear that you have to live with when you know there's people out this like that. It is fearful. It is literally fearful where you lay awake at night. You have nightmares.
I don't have those anymore. I really recommend therapy. Like, that's what I'm saying, Steve. It's a trauma response.
I get that. And you've dealt with it. And I'm still trying to deal with that.
Yeah,
I have not processed all that stuff. I'm well aware of that.
Fair.
Yes.
I think yours is probably more fresh too, right? Mine's old at this point.
No, mine started, I've had people going back, 7 years? That's a long freaking time.
That's a long time.
I had one person who I never had a conversation with, never talked to, who was supposedly dying of cancer that said they're going to go after me until they die of cancer and until I apologize to them. And I have to this day still have no idea what the hell are we talking about. That's not mental unwellness, I don't know what is. Yeah,
totally. No, absolutely. Gosh. I mean, that's the hardest part. I think that's why I've been extra like motherly to the internet. I'm like, no, I know what this is. I've dealt with it before. God bless you. Blocked.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh,
God bless you.
That block. Yeah, no, and it's what's so funny is my group, my friends and my subscribers, they've also had things happen to them. So they
really,
yeah, and some of it, maybe related to me, some of it not. But I mean, in their own personal lives, I don't know, they've dated people that abusive relationships. They've dated the narcissist. They've dated the person who has taken things to such an extreme to continue to go to the person's work or people to
that's crazy.
Those kind of behaviors are not just unwelcomed, they're straight out dangerous, and they freak me out anymore because I know and that people will go in real life, and I swear to God as my witness, there will be people that unfortunately go so far out of life that people have ended up losing their life over it.
Well, Christina Grimmie, that happened to her. She was a YouTuber and she got shot at one of her concerts because her stalker showed up.
That. Yeah.
He was sending her love letters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember Christina died and that sucked. And like, that's real.
Yeah. And so, you get these two groups going, oh, Steve's kind of overblowing things. Steve's, trying to make it an emotional issue. No, Steve's not. This shit scares the shit out of me when I see people that I know that are so freaking, I think are dangerous, but I still don't want to stop talking on the internet because I don't want to be one, feared off, and two, it's not therapeutic for me to just stop all, completely.
Of course,
I need it.
No, the internet's a great place.
You have to be aware of it. You have to be aware that these people are out there like that.
You know what's interesting? You say that. I was on TikTok the other day and I realized like normies just like post their locations on the internet. I'm like, am I so like hyper vigilant as a YouTuber that I would
Right?
never like, what are you doing?
Right?
And then I realized like, are normies just like out here relaxed, sharing their front yards and their house addresses? And I'm like, oh my God.
They don't
Like,
know,
that's so
they don't know
different.
how dangerous it really is.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting.
and even still, I mean, a lot of people have anonymity on the YouTube, right? And the social medias. We don't. This is my real name. And so I don't have that advantages of being anonymous. I'm not a public figure, but I am public. Big difference. And so luckily though, everybody who knows me in real life, not a single soul of them, not one of them would ever buy into anything that on the internet. Right?
Yeah.
Just
I think
they
that's
know
kind
it's
of the
BS.
key
Not
point,
one.
right?
Not one.
Is to make sure you have like a good family and like
Right.
support structure ultimately. Like, I mean, gosh, mine got me through so many moments. Like you were a part of that. Like to have people that like know you well enough to know when shit hits the fan. But, you know, I always wonder like if I, you know, ever get more popular or things blow up a little bit bigger, like, okay, am I ready to deal with it? Like, actually, that's why I had to ask myself, like, do I really want to make this my full-time career? And the truth is, like, I do.
Mhm.
And now I have to be ready for it. You know, I've done my best over the years to keep my family out of it and to be private and to have like a good relationship with my audience. But yeah, I am kind of like
So
getting
they can snare you
prepared.
at times, right? I mean, character assassination is a big thing on the internet. When they
It
don't
is.
agree
I
with
think,
you, the way they go is character assassination.
yeah, I think I can handle it a lot better now, but I've worked really hard to prepare myself for it. Not that it won't bother me or impact me. I'm ready for it. So
Mhm.
like, you know, if that's the game we're going to play. Also, I'm not going to lie, I do also just not watch things people make about me.
Oh, I don't either. I have that rule. Oh, let's talk about that for a second. I have a rule, and this is a rule, and you can ask anybody in my real life or somebody knows me well. This is not just talk. I don't watch any video that has my name in it.
Okay, I watch some videos, but I don't watch like people that are
only
really
video I watch,
distrustful.
like your video, I watch because you put my name in your video, right?
Sure.
Yours, but any troll video, I don't even watch.
No.
It doesn't affect my mind because there are people that know the facts. People around 7-10 years. They go out there and go, yeah, you're just an idiot. You're just stupid.
Yeah.
Steve proved all this ages ago. And so I don't need to deal with any of it, you know? But I mean,
Yeah.
they just do it because they still want to be able to hurt somebody. Even though, like I said, I have won my lawsuit for $130,000. I won my channel back and I was vindicated from day one of everything I said was what happened. And I don't feel like I need to vindicate myself. I don't need to do anything else. It's already been done. But there are people that just won't let things go. And that to me is what I find to be the most duplicitous and dangerous of the people. The person who I continue to call it out, they still are harming people. If they weren't still harming people, I would never talk about them.
Interesting. I've gone the opposite route. I just don't talk about anybody at all. And if they want to talk about themselves, they can. But also legally, I can't talk about them.
Well, yeah, and I know your situation. But I mean, let's say like the Destiny Vosh, you can and do talk about, right?
Well, I'd be friendly with Destiny. Damn, like I can handle him. Like she's.
Well, I thought Destiny blocked you.
Yeah, but if she ever wanted to talk again, I'd talk to her.
Wait, Destiny now is she now?
Destiny is this girl's name. You don't know this?
Well, yeah, but Destiny's not a girl streamer.
Isn't she, girls? Isn't she? It's a joke. It's a meme in the community.
Okay,
Destiny is a girl's name.
I was like,
It's a meme in his community.
Did I miss another trans person that I done?
No.
Not,
Look, I have no ill will towards Destiny.
Destiny's
with
not
all
trans though, I
well-intentioned-
assume though, right?
Wait, what?
Destiny's not trans, right?
No.
Okay, because again, I was criticized
No,
for not
he's a
knowing somebody
man.
was trans. I was transphobic.
No,
'cause
it's
I
a
didn't-
meme. It's a
yeah,
meme.
okay. All right.
No.
Cool.
Look, I have no hate for anyone. There's not one person on this planet that I hate right now. If I find a new one, I'll let you guys know. But I don't hate anyone. I have no ill will towards anyone. I've radically accepted that everyone is just doing what they think is right.
Wow, more power to you, but I can't do. Yeah, not my mindset. I hate.
No, I
people.
feel you. Don't get me
I
wrong.
hate
I
people.
get angry. Okay, especially when people block me without having the discussion, but they'll have the discussion with other freaks. Okay,
Yeah.
like of course I get frustrated.
It's a different mindset. Whatever works for you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whatever works for me is there are people that I literally
Absolutely.
hate. And there's people in my audience that I know that they hate a lot of the same people. They've had some really bad experiences with certain people.
Yeah.
So I get it, you know. But
Yeah,
I mean, whatever works for you. If you can not have that feeling, that's wonderful, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's not like I could just. it's definitely a work in progress. And it's not like I don't get upset. It's more just like, yeah, I don't have hate anymore. But man, when I did, girl, it was strong.
Well, I remember what you went through, and I don't want to get the details, but I remember having, coffee with you, and you were telling me things, and I was just honestly, I didn't fully understand it all the time because I had to like progressively, but once I kind of saw the reality of what was going on, I'm like, wow, yeah, you've seen some shit, you've been through some things,
Yeah, and thank God I don't have to deal with it anymore. I think that's what the most grateful I am, is that I don't have to deal with it. I live in a different country. I'm relaxing. I'm married. Job is going well. I get to hang out with you and my friends, and like, yeah, things are just great. Like ultimately, I'm really lucky that I think my hard work and plus the community around me, like they give me a chance to explain myself.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a standing policy. Honest interlocutors get honest answers. That's been my trope. That's why I say honest interlocutors get honest answers, because if somebody really wants to know the truth, I have a plethora.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same. That's what I mean when I say I don't watch videos people make about me. I don't watch video. I'll watch it, but if I feel like, okay, bro, I literally explained this to you and you took it out of context again, that's when I'm like, peace and love. I wish you the best. But like getting taken out of context when I've explained it to you multiple times, it feels malicious at that point.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And there's something called sea lining, where it's as you know, have you heard of sea lining?
I don't think so. Explain it.
Sea lining is a form of trolling where all they're doing is asking questions, but not caring to get the answers.
Ugh, so annoying.
And God knows have I seen my share of that. So I have to be very careful, because I have that policy that honest interlocutors get honest answers, but I also have to be highly cognizant of people that will troll. And so I don't really talk to anybody that I don't know anymore. I have to put up that boundary. When people message me, I have to vet the crap out of them. Yeah. It's unfortunate. But the people that I do know in my life, because I still talk to a lot of people, if any one of them has an issue, they have come to me, and I will try to resolve it. And I think my audience knows this, because there are people in my audience, as we speak, knows that I will go out of my way to address their concerns. Yeah. What else would somebody want other than that? And it's not the lip service. I want to know what their issue is. I want to know what their problem, if they disagree with me, or if they found the stream offensive or something like that, and talk about that.
Yeah, I would say like the type of realization I've had, and the internet will always change and things, but I think there's like a space on the internet where people are genuinely sort of like thinking everyone's ill-intentioned, and I think everyone's well-intentioned, but some people, their well-intentions are like very different from mine. So it's like, okay. And then some people are just ill-intentioned, right?
Absolutely.
But most people, I think
the trolls, the people that come into people's live streams and disrupt it, these are not good people.
This is right. They're not
this is why we separated from them ages ago and said, you're not good people. We want nothing to do with you. And that hurt their feelings. They couldn't accept that rejection.
Yeah. And I think like ultimately knowing those boundaries is kind of the biggest deal, especially in creating a space. Like I said, I want sort of a free speech space, but at the same time, like, girl, we're not that free. I'm gonna block you if you get annoying.
Exactly. Same thing in my live chat. I mean, people that will come in and disagree, we not only don't block them, I invite them on the panel. Right? Come on in, have a discussion. Right? But again, it has to be somebody who's an honest interlocutor, not some troll from 7 years ago that, thinks that I have an atheist sex cult or something. I'm not going to deal with any of that. You're more likely to have a sex cult than me.
Hey! I'm married and monogamous now. No sex cults. Okay.
That doesn't mean you have to participate. You can
That's true. The only sex cult I own is my Discord. You can join through Patreon. Thank you. That's the only sex cult I am a part of.
Don't your fans want to be part of a sex cult? Come on.
They do, actually. They are heathens. They're degens. They're degenerates.
And absolutely. More power to it. Look, I'm far from a prude, but I mean, I still have to recognize that as somebody who's public, I'm into some decor, right? And it's so funny, you talk about like PTSD and all that other stuff. The person that I've been talking to for a year, I said the word boobs to her, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, she could end me if this goes south, right? Oh
my God.
But of course, it's funny, right? Because here's a person you've been dating for, not dating, but somebody you've known for a year. And, even saying something like, hey, by the way, I'm doing this for you, not just because you have a nice set of boobs. Or, it's like, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
But it's because you have to have that that relationship with them. You have to be able to know what you can say and by the way, they say way worse than me, and I don't. Some people say things to me, and I don't respond to them, and it's just like I don't know how to respond to it. I'm not.
I think
I'm not good with
feeling
dirty
safe.
Yeah, I'm not good with
You just want to feel safe, right? Okay, just a shout out. I got another super chat about a restraining order. Can I just tell you guys, anyone can get a restraining order. It doesn't mean anything. I wish it could mean something more, but anyone can get one.
The person who falsely accused me, even in the court documents years ago, all those court documents came out. And
no, my stalker tried to do that, she got a restraining order, and she was like, "Look, this means something." I was like, "It doesn't mean anything. Anyone can get that."
No, and when it came out that was it 4 years ago that they had absolutely lied on what they wrote down, that right there vindicated me. I didn't have to say anything after that. It's like, here's what they said, go from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who I've never even been in the same state.
Yeah. Now, okay, can I just tell you something? Imagine what it is to be a celebrity or a politician.
Johnny Depp, right? I mean, can you imagine what he went through?
Imagine, and look. John, like all those cases are complicated because Johnny Depp toxic as fuck, bro. But also like the way Amber Heard slandered him, the way that people believed it, the way everything, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, imagine being a celebrity and having that many people.
I'm not a big Johnny Depp fan. I mean, I like some of his work, but I'm like,
sure, who doesn't? He was a great actor.
Okay, for example, what was the the lawyer for Amber Heard, right? What was her name? Elaine. Starts with the B, Brennicoff, whatever. She's like back now, trying to spin everything to Amber Heard, even though I think she might have violated attorney-client privilege and some other things. She might get disbarred, and she might even care. She might be retiring. Brennicoff, right? Elaine Brennicoff, is that her last name? But maybe. But I watched the trial. I watched it, and I thought to myself the entire time, it is clear this woman's lying. It is clear that this woman did not experience what she's claiming to experience, and that Johnny Depp is the person who was abused in this relationship. No doubt in my mind about it. 100% convinced. And look what he had to do in order to fight that. First, he had to be silent for a very long time. That takes its toll. Yeah. Right. When you're telling the truth and yet you can't explain it to anybody, it is probably the most difficult thing in the mind that he went through. It's traumatizing. But once his story got out there, I think he was freed. I think in the long run, he's a much stronger, much better person. And Amber Heard's never going to have the credibility that she once had. And anybody who dates her knows what they're getting themselves into. That's for damn sure.
I mean, she's married to a woman, right? She has a baby with a woman, doesn't she?
I don't know if she's still married. Did she get
married? Is she divorced? She could be divorced. I thought, yeah. I definitely think like, I think even mutually abusive relationships, there could always be a bigger, like an actual victim to the alleged crimes. I think with Amber Heard and Johnny, what was confusing was because it was like sort of mutually toxic. There was ultimately the thing she accused him, because we watched the trial. We watched it live on my stream. Oh, did you? Like, yeah, we watched it. We covered it. It was like one of the biggest streamed content for the time. Like people were getting so many streamers.
Oh my goodness. That's how people
it was intense. Yeah. But like, that case was so complicated. And I was fully on Johnny's side in terms of what the case was about. But it was interesting because obviously we knew that that's why I say like the world isn't perfect. Like you can have two people abusing each other and still have somebody who's much more abusive.
Yeah, look, Johnny I'm going to piss off a lot of your audience who have.
I mean, a lot of Hollywood stars are incredibly toxic.
Yeah, Johnny Depp was no angel.
Yeah. But in terms of the court case, I think it was clear that Amber was lying.
Yeah, and the fact that she instigated a lot of things, and as somebody pointed out, she promised to donate money, she never did. Yeah, she spent so much in legal costs. But yeah, I was pro Johnny because I believe very strongly that he was telling the truth, even though, and he recognized that. Look, he was no angel. Sure, he recognized it. But what happened to him should happen to nobody, and it can't happen because. You have people like Amber Heard, and worse, you have people that support Amber Heard like she can do no wrong, just because she's a woman. Yeah, and that's tribalism.
Well, I mean, everyone's got it. Like even I think the problem is like I'm convinced that people in the right circumstance will let the wrong thing happen for a lot of what they think is the right reason. Agreed. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's complicated. I think that's why you got to keep like a small group of people, even like people who you know really well, sometimes like their view of you or their view of them, or like if values are different, it can be very confusing and muddled about like who would do what and what. The problem is like if your best friend does something horrible, it's hard to believe it. You know, it is hard for people to believe like, oh, my brother would do that. My cousin would do that. My friend would do that, you know? And that's why I think it is complicated, because even if we want to believe we'd all do the right thing, my audience and I had this discussion actually, would you hide a body for your best friend? And it's like, no, values over loyalty. But for a lot of people, it's loyalty over values, right?
Right. And I don't like blind loyalty. I don't like that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have my friend, Reds. We have the same values. First of all, we'd never ever expect anybody to do that, right? It would be something that wouldn't be even asked. But I know if he tells me something, I will automatically believe him at face value. Right? Because he's earned that. It's not a matter of his gender. It's not a matter of anything about him, except that he's earned the probable doubt. He's earned the position of, okay, I'm going to take you at your word until demonstrated otherwise. And that's never happened. This is clearly hypothetical. But we know from 10 years, I mean, I go back 10 or 11 years with the guy. He was actually, one of the first persons I know on the internet, or on YouTube, social media. He's earned that right because he's always came out that I was telling the truth, he was telling the truth, and so we built that up with each other. That to me is relationship. That is to me when you're talking about finding a soulmate. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a physical romantic relationship. This guy is like my brother. I agree. So if he was ever to do something like I define to be morally egregious, first I'd be stunned, right? I'd be like, what the? And then I would go, what the hell is going on here, man? Yeah. So that's different.
No, I agree. I think that's what's so difficult is whether it's our family or our friends or whatever, making that kind of connection, I think is really rare. Because like I know my besties and they're capable of crazy. I just know it. In my heart, I'm like, I don't know, you might do something crazy. But like if my husband came to me and was like, I'm being accused of something, well, obviously he's earned the right for me to say like, okay, I don't think this is part of your character. It makes no sense of what I know about you. Let's see why people are saying that, or let's see what's happening. Or even me, like I'm the one on the internet. He's the one who has to deal with his wife. Oh my God, I'm not going to lie. I was like, what's it like going on the internet and seeing people make videos about your wife? And he's like, honestly, bro, it kind of gives me anxiety. I was like, it is anxiety inducing to watch somebody like talk about somebody you love and know so well. And then they just don't know that person that way. My sister gets the most anxiety where she's like, oh, I hate when people talk about you. They do not understand you. And I hate it because they're so wrong about you. And I was like, it's fine.
Right.
Like,
I've seen that happen firsthand. But like, for example, when you started telling me things years and years ago, I took you at face value, didn't I not? I never doubted. I never was like, okay, she's lying to me. I was like, okay. But my thing was I just didn't fully understand it, obviously, because there was a lot to deal with. But now I have no doubt. You tell me something, it's going to be the truth. I would have no reason to think for any reason you would need you wouldn't need to lie to me about anything. Yeah,
well, I wouldn't need to. I think with you especially, and I hope with the most people, I could just say like, I don't want to answer that, or I'm not able to have this conversation, or like
you accept that. Yeah. But that's just personal boundaries. I do that all the time. There's certain things I will not talk about. Will not talk about for my own mental well-being or whatever. And I don't give a shit if somebody doesn't care. If somebody wants to say, oh, Steve's avoiding it. Well, you know what? That's my right to avoid the issue. Stay away from me. I built up a great community of great people over a long time. And so, I don't need that in my life. I don't need toxicity.
Okay, one last thing I want to talk to you about, because I don't know if we're coming to an end here, but one last thing I want to talk to you about. Soon.
I usually go about 2 hours, and you've been streaming for a long time today. Yeah.
Is I've noticed, lying seems to be so prevalent, which is like, I'm not judging it. I think like the world's built off lies, so you do you. But I try not to lie. I try very hard to only lie in survival situations, which I haven't been in one in a long time. Okay, I've been pretty good. And I've noticed that a lot of people will do this thing where people will ask them a personal question, and if they don't want to answer it, they'll lie. And I'm like, you could just like tell the truth or say.
I don't think you need to lie. Just
okay, but here's the question. What do you think it means that people think to lie?
I think, generally people lie to protect themselves, to hide something, right? To prevent fallout. And I can understand why people lie to do that, because sometimes the fallout can be so great and worse, decontextualized fallout. Because if you're telling the truth, right? Some people, no matter what the truth is, are going to find a way to make it sound worse, to twist it and run a narrative and character assassinate you. And so sometimes people believe, you know what, it's just best to lie, so those people don't have something they can catch on to. The problem is, if it comes out you lied, then it makes it 10 times worse, right? So it's almost like a risk that you have to take. And my audience knows I will not lie to them. What they do is I just tell them, I'm not talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about it. At that point, it's like, believe what the fuck you want. Because I've always made a promise to them that they're going to get the truth from me as much as possible. But there is a point where I can no longer conversate with them on things that, one, will be taken out of context, or two, they may not understand. And so I save that for the people in my real life. And there's people in my real life, they know everything about me, and they're still my best friends and still people that care about me. And so anything that they think I've done some horrific, it doesn't exist. This personage that people make of YouTubers that, we're going to construct this thing. Let's say like Brittany will make, oh my God, Brittany is this horrible person. She kicks puppies and she does all this, and your sister and your family going, what the hell are they talking about? But this is this is how they want to portray you, right? They want to diminish what you have to offer because they want to make people believe that you're not trustworthy, you're not a good person. And then when you have in real life people that know you, vouch for you, that I think that means something, because we put our reputations on the line, right? We put our, if I found out you were actually kicking puppies, and when I'm defending you from kicking puppies, it would hurt me. It would hurt me and the puppies.
Yeah.
Don't hurt puppies. I love puppies.
That would hurt me too, by the way.
Good.
If I ever found out. No, it hurts when you find out you've been vouching for someone and you realize, like, holy shit, you've been doing these horrible fucking these things behind closed doors, bro.
Right.
You feel so dumb, which is why I always say this. This is okay, because I learned the hard way. I've been saying this instead. Humans are going to human, and whatever they end up doing, it is their business. But from what I know of them, they seem like a good person. But like, I would be very hurt if I found out they were not as great as I thought they were. But how am I supposed to know what everyone's doing behind closed doors?
You can't. You have to. And this is what I'm saying. You still have to put yourself out there. You still have to make judgment calls. We all have to do it.
For sure. We all do it.
And if we get screwed over by it,
what are you going to do?
It's part of life, I guess. Not everybody's going to have the same values, and that's something we all have to accept. My values are my own. I've developed them over many years. I like my moral theory. I like my virtue ethics. I do tend to moral realism. And if people have differing values, I totally respect that, as long as it doesn't hurt people. There are people whose value is to harm people. Those are the people that I've tried to avoid in my life, and yet they will not stop. And you have it happen to you. This is probably why we have a camaraderie. This is why we're able to do collabs. We don't have to convince each other anything. We've experienced it ourselves.
Right. Exactly. No, I think you're totally right. I think that's what I've been trying to explain to my audience for a while, which is like, there are just certain people in the world whose value system like encourages them to hurt people, versus mine is like trying to harm, reduce, like do not hurt people if possible, while accepting that, like, just being gay might quote hurt people. It's like, okay, everybody relax. It's like, don't harm people. I don't want to hurt people.
I don't get that argument.
That's the Catholic, like the Christian argument or whatever, like, your lifestyle hurts me. But yeah, like, I obviously don't want to hurt people. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a good friend. I'm trying my best to be a good everything to the best of my ability, What else can we do?
Everybody needs to do that. That's what I'm saying. I think there's two kinds of people in the world, with very few in between. There are people that will generally try to help. Somebody came to me today, not to have any deals, but somebody came to me. They needed help with something, a big favor, so to speak. But I already promised them if they ever needed that, I would do it for them. I kept my word.
Yeah,
I kept my word.
Yeah.
That's what you have to be known for. You have to have people know that you will keep your promises. That if you say that. You're going to do something, because if not, you have a society where you can't trust anybody, and I don't want to live in that kind of society. I just don't.
For sure.
And so I have people that I can rely on. You have people you can rely on, and we have to, as a group and community as a whole, point out the people that you can't rely on, and just distance yourself from those people. Just
for sure.
Get rid of the toxicity. I know there's people that thrive in it, and I know people have YouTube channels like Destiny who love toxicity, and people that love the troll communities. I'm not going to be a part of those people. I can't. I refuse to. I think it's harmful.
It's exhausting.
It's dangerous. It is dangerous what I've seen happen in these troll communities. But I'm not going to be self-righteous, because I don't troll the flat earthers, but I'm certainly not like
You and the flat earthers, bro. When Non Sequitur was just doing flat earth stuff, I was like, bro.
I don't know what's happening in the flat earther communities. They seem to be dying out.
Good.
But yeah,
Good.
but anyways,
What an era.
yeah,
What
we're
an
definitely
era,
wrapping
bro.
up 2 hours. Man,
Yeah.
this has been. We got to do this like every so often, man.
I would love that. Reach out, especially now that you're back on it, and I would love to talk to you again. And yeah, thanks for your time.
I got to test my collab cam out. I didn't really know that Streamlabs has something like that, and I also use vMix, but I want to test it out one day. But yeah, I'll reach out to you. But I'm going to popping in your Discord probably a bit more. I like to have these conversations, and even in the Discord chats, I've been kind of getting back more.
That'd be great.
So.
That'd be great.
All right, thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it very much. Always a pleasure. Thanks to my audience. You're going to continue to stream to your audience, right?
Say that again.
You're going to continue to stream on your end to your audience.
Yeah. I'm trying. I think I have another collab after this, possibly.
All right. Well, let people know. You can subscribe to the Non-Sequitur Show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, go check out Steve. I've linked it in the chat, guys. I'll link it again.
I need the subs.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, Steve.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, my moderators and my subscribers and my Patreons and everybody else out there that has supported. I'm going to be doing, I think, a show on Saturday on creationism, if I'm not mistaken. I got a few people interested. That should be pretty interesting. I just don't know if I'm making a Non-Sequitur Show or not. I think I might just have it on my personal channel, Steve McRae. Because I think that maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, I am really tired. I got some housework to do. We've been trying to get the place tip top. And so I'm going to go do my housework after I finish one more cup of coffee and maybe stream something tonight on my other channel, but we'll see. So with that, guys, thanks for watching the Non-Sequitur Show. I hope you enjoyed watching Brittany Simon. Like I said, she's one of my favorite all-time people. One of my favorite humans. That's not lip service. She is a wonderful, wonderful person who I've had, lucky in my life to have gotten to know in real life and associate with and hang out with. And go check out her stuff. Okay? So with that, guys, thank you, Autistic. And join if you want to become a member of the channel. That helps too. You get your name in green and you can use the funds. All right, guys. Good night.